Chapter 2347. If it was said that everyone didn't understand Big Brotherly Cheng's words before, then they understood everything when they saw this pill. 9 pill veins. This pill was already a 9 revolution pill, which meant that Brotherly Cheng was a real level 9 alchemist master. As a level 9 alchemist master, he naturally didn't need to be ranked among the level 8 alchemist masters. However, this fact made everyone fall into silence for a while. The scene was silent. There was actually a level 9 alchemist master in the spiritual realm. If this was set out, many people would scoff at it. There should be a limit to joking. It was not a funny thing to play with common sense that everyone knew. However, since everyone knew that Yang Chun could successfully refine an 8 revolution pill and was already a real level 8 alchemist master, this itself had already surpassed the common sense of the spiritual realm. Since there was already someone who broke the common sense, it was not so incomprehensible to have another one. The problem was that even in the immortal world, a level 9 alchemist master was an extraordinary existence that countless true immortals had to look up to. He was actually lucky enough to know such a genius who was more monstrous than his husband in the spiritual realm. They knew that Brotherly Cheng might be more powerful than their husband, but at first, they only thought that Brotherly Cheng was just a little bit better than their husband and was still a level 8 alchemist master. They never thought that Brotherly Cheng was already such an incredible alchemy master. Yang Chen also laughed. From a mortal world to the spiritual realm, many cultivators said that they were alchemy masters, but compared with Brotherly Cheng, they were really far behind. As long as something was related to the Tao ancestor, it would definitely become so incredible. His gaze fell on the golden medicinal pill in his hand, and Yang Chun began to carefully observe this 9 revolutions medicinal pill. Any pill, no matter what grade, would turn golden as long as it went through the 9 revolution pill. This was also the origin of the name 9 revolution golden pill. The pill in front of him was no exception. The golden light was restrained and beautiful. It looked so simple that it made people's hair stand on end, but it exuded such a breathtaking charm. Even though Yang Chun had stayed in the immortal world for thousands of years in his previous life, and his cultivation had even reached the level of perfected golden immortal, he had never had the opportunity to see the 9 revolutions golden pill. He did have the opportunity to see a few 9th grade alchemists, but it was only from afar. He didn't even have the chance to get close to them. Holding the 9 transformations golden pill, Yang Chun felt as if he was in a dream and was in a trance. But very quickly, Yang Chun came back to his senses. Even the few high and mighty fairies who were famous in the immortal world in his previous life had become his wives and concubines. What else was impossible? When Yang Chun put away that incredible feeling and looked at the 9 cycles golden pill again with the eyes of the most professional alchemist, there was only appreciation and admiration in the alchemy skills, and there was no change in his thoughts. The successor of the Tao ancestor became a 9th grade alchemist in the spiritual realm. Was it worth making a fuss about? As long as one understood this principle, all the surprises could be easily resolved, and one could look at it with a normal heart. Since everything was natural, what was so incomprehensible about it? The 9 cycles golden pill was magnified to the limit in Yang Chen's sea of consciousness, and Yang Chen finally understood what kind of medicinal pill this 9 cycles golden pill was. It was the same Lingji mushroom jade pill, but it was the 9 cycles Lingji mushroom jade pill. There was no merit chapter, just the most basic method to refine the ordinary Lingji mushroom jade pill to the 9th grade. However, as long as the 9 revolutions refinement was successful, then even the most ordinary of pills would undergo a stunning transformation, becoming superior to all the previous grades of pills. This was the case with the golden pill in front of him. In Yang Chen's sea of consciousness, Yang Chun was able to see the most subtle structure of the medicinal pill, which gave him a comprehensive understanding of this golden pill. In terms of alchemy techniques, there seemed to be nothing particularly mysterious. It seemed to be carried out step by step. However, in this ordinary technique, the consistent step-by-step method was worth learning from Yang Chun. Very early on, Yang Chen knew that the more ordinary the technique was, the more basic it was. This applied not only to alchemy, but also to cultivation, weapon forging, and array formations. The Great Yin and Yang 5-element secret art were all the most basic original source cultivation methods. These original source cultivation methods could be said to be the most basic and purest cultivation methods. But when cultivating, it was this purest and most basic cultivation method that could provide Yangchuan with the purest original spirit power. This was a realistic example. The biggest feature of this 9 cycles golden pills refining technique was stable. It was neutral and peaceful, without the slightest brilliance, but there was no mistake at all, which was amazing. This refining technique fully exerted the medicinal efficacy of the Lingji mushroom jade pill, neither more nor less, just right. This was the same as what Yang Chun had realized in the past, using good medicinal materials to refine good medicinal pills and ordinary medicinal materials to refine ordinary medicinal pills. Compared with this medicinal pill, Yang Chen's current refining method was actually the last refining stage. This was the gap in realms, and it was also a threshold for Yang Chen's controllability and refining level. In addition to these, it could be said that the previous 8 stages of refining Yang Chen had reached or even surpassed the level of this 9 cycles golden pill. After all, this 9 cycles golden pill did not go through the process of refining each medicinal material with the most suitable fire seed like Yang Chen, and did not use the most suitable fire seed for the final refining. From beginning to end, only one kind of fire seed was used to complete it. In this regard, although Big Brotherly Cheng's realm was high, there was still a natural deficiency in the fire seed. However, the gap in the last stage was by no means a simple threshold. For the vast majority of alchemists, this seemingly inconspicuous threshold could not be crossed in their lifetime. Those who could cross it were 1 in 10,000 miles. Even if they crossed it, many alchemists could only do it with the most basic qi, nourishing pill, and essence cultivating pill. For slightly more complicated medicinal pills, they could only be helpless. In addition to the refining technique, which made Yang Chen see the gap, Yang Chen also saw the gap in the most basic particles of the medicinal pill. The last time Yang Chen and Li Cheng refined it in the first stage, the size of the medicinal pill particles could only reach the magnitude seen by the first stage internal inspection liquid, and could not reach the level of the 8th stage internal inspection liquid. Perhaps after the 8th stage of refining, the basic particles of the medicinal pill could be shrunk a little more, but it was certainly impossible to reach that level. Both of them understood this truth, so they did not continue to refine it more. However, this 9 cycles golden pill only added the last stage of refining, but it had undergone a qualitative change. The medicinal pill particles were even smaller than the most basic particles observed by Yang Chen. Chapter 2348. This also meant that the 9 cycles golden elixir could easily enter the most basic structure of the physical body and completely heal this subtle level of injury. Perhaps there was such a gap between the last level of refining. But Yang Chen was not surprised by this. It was not surprising that the 9 cycles golden elixir could solve this level of injury. Otherwise, those true immortals in the immortal realm would not be so eager to get it. It could be said that this elixir was a dignified elixir. It was refined with the most basic technique and the most conventional refining process. It was a mediocre elixir that conformed to all the common sense of alchemy and all the standards of alchemy. Similarly, this elixir was also the most standard example, so that Yang Chen could see the highest level and achievements of an alchemist. This was simply a teaching example left by elder brother Li Cheng to Yang Chen, so that Yang Chen knew the path he should take in the future. Others may only know that this was a 9 cycles golden elixir that could have extraordinary medicinal effects, but they did not understand what this elixir really meant. But Yang Chen knew that this was his future path. At the same time, it was also a spur. Yang Chen would not forget what he and elder brother Li Cheng discovered not long ago and what they wanted to solve. Elder brother Li Cheng must have left this elixir in the hope that he could find a solution when he was a grade 8 alchemist, and then completely surpass him. Sometimes, the realm did not mean everything. Just like the elixir refined by Yang Chen at the first level The effect was already better than the level of ordinary grade 7 alchemists. If Yang Chen's 8 cycles golden elixir could surpass this golden elixir, it must mean that Yang Chen had made a huge breakthrough. The 9 cycles golden elixir was not kept in Yang Chen's hands for a long time. When Yang Chen studied it inside and out and felt that the research was thorough enough, Yang Chen repeated the previous process again, used the 8 cycles internal inspection liquid, and then ate the 9 cycles golden elixir that countless people treasured. No matter how good the appearance of the pill was, how clear the structure was, or how brilliant the technique was, it was still reflected in the medicinal effect after taking the pill. Yang Chen also wanted to fully experience the difference between the 9 revolutions golden pill and ordinary pills. This was the first time in his previous life and this life. All the women watched as their husbands swallowed the pill that everyone coveted, but none of them felt reluctant. They knew very well that their husband would definitely have a deeper understanding after taking this pill. Perhaps in the near future, they would be able to use the 9 transformations golden pill refined by their husband. Even if their husband could not break through to the 9th grade pill refinement master in a short time, they still firmly believe that her husband would have a qualitative improvement in the 8th revolution pill concoction. That was their unreserved trust in her husband. With just 1 golden core, everyone no longer had any worries about the outcome of the war with the Zhao family. Even if Brother Li Cheng had already made it clear that he would not take the initiative to participate in the direct confrontation. Sometimes the building of confidence was magical. A small, seemingly unrelated thing could lead to a completely different outcome. Yang Chen finally felt the difference between the 9 revolutions golden pill and the 8 revolutions pill. It sounded like there was only one more revolution in the name, and then it became a specific thing called golden pill. In essence, it was still the Lingji mushroom jade pill, but after eating it, he found that it was really 2 different things. The way to enter the blood was exactly the same, but the state of preservation in the blood was different. The size of the basic particles of the pill was also different. The 9 revolutions golden pill could easily penetrate into the basic structure of the body and easily solve the problems that the 8 revolutions pill could not solve. The medicinal power of the 9 revolutions golden pill was so strong that the same injury could be completely cured with only half of the basic particles of the 8 revolutions golden pill. Reaching the 9 revolutions pill concoction was indeed a leap. Not only that, if there was no wound to consume the medicinal power, then the basic particles of those pills would remain in the blood, very stable, and would not decrease with time and cultivation. Only when the next wound appeared would it continue to take effect. In other words, if Yang Chen wasn't injured now, at least for a long time, he didn't have to worry about how to recover after he was injured. Elder Brother Li Cheng really gave Yang Chen a good direction to strive for. At least, Yang Chen didn't dare to think that he was great in alchemy anymore. Although Yang Chen had realized this a long time ago, Elder Brother Li Cheng's kindness still made him very happy. Elder Yao, the golden immortal of the Xuanwu Academy, had also been in Chunyang Palace for some time. After using the internal inspection fluid, he should be the one who benefited the most. It would take hundreds of years to improve a small realm in the immortal world, but he didn't expect that it could be done in the spiritual world with only one kind of elixir from Master Yang. Elder Yao was very grateful to Master Yang, so he specially asked to see Yang Chen in person after his retreat to improve his realm. Strictly speaking, he was also living under someone else's roof, and he received such great benefits from others. In any case, he had to thank him personally. Elder Yao followed the etiquette. His posture was very low, and he solemnly asked to see Yang Chen to thank him in person. When the senior came to visit, Yang Chen certainly had to give him face. If not for anything else, he had to form a good relationship. Therefore, Yang Chen also came forward to receive Elder Yao politely. When he saw Yang Chen again, Elder Yao didn't pay much attention at first. Recently, there were many cultivators like Yang Chen in Chunyang Palace who were full of vitality. It was not surprising that Yang Chen was also in such a state. However, Elder Yao seemed to suddenly realize something. With an incredible expression on his face, he stared at Yang Chen for a long time, which made Yang Chen a little surprised. He didn't know what Elder Yao meant. This is the 9 Revolutions golden pill. Elder Yao's tone was full of uncertainty, but his eyes were filled with incomparable hope as he looked at Yang Chun and asked. When Elder Yao's words came out, Yang Chun was also shocked. He saw through it just like that. However, thinking about it, it was normal. After all, Elder Yao was also an expert from the lower realm of the immortal world. To be chosen by the Black Tortoise Academy's upper echelon, he should be a disciple that was specially nurtured. It was normal for him to have seen the 9 Revolutions golden pill. Even if he hadn't seen it before, it wasn't a rare thing to hear about it. Senior has good eyesight. Since the other party saw through it, Yang Chun didn't hide it anymore. There was no need to. Moreover, letting the other party know about the 9 Revolutions golden pill would indirectly increase his confidence, which would be of great benefit to fighting against the Zhao family. Master, you refined it? When Elder Yao asked this question, he couldn't believe it at all. However, if Master Yang didn't refine it himself, how would there be a chance to obtain the 9 Revolutions golden pill in the spiritual realm? I don't have such ability at the moment, Yang Chun denied with a smile. I was just lucky. Chapter 2349. Luck? If Elder Yao was a cultivator who believed in getting a 9 transformation golden pill in the spiritual realm, he would never be a golden immortal. How could such a naive cultivator ascend to the immortal realm safely? Elder Yao was not a naive person, so he did not believe Yang Chen's words at all. Perhaps there was luck, but it was definitely not just luck that determined the outcome. At that moment, Elder Yao, a golden immortal who was undergoing tribulation, was trembling slightly. Elder Yao could not help but be excited. 9 transformation golden pill. That meant that there was a level 9 pill refiner behind him. Even in the immortal realm, in a super sect like the Black Tortoise Academy, the number of level 9 pill refiners could be counted on one hand. The dignified Black Heaven sect, a powerhouse that controlled the heavenly court, only had a dozen level 9 pill refiners in the sect, and each of them was in 10,000 tribulation true immortal. Normally, being able to obtain a golden 9 transformations pill was something worth celebrating in the immortal world, let alone in the spiritual realm. If Elder Yao did not even understand the importance of this, he would not have been sent to the spiritual realm by the Black Tortoise Academy. I will never forget Master Yang's kindness. If Master Yang has any errands for me in the future, please let me know. I will risk my life to help you. At this time, if Elder Yao still didn't know how to face his relationship with Yang Chun, then Elder Yao was a fool. Without saying a word, Elder Yao first expressed his determination to stand on Yang Chen's side. He even addressed himself as Elder Yao instead of this seat. No one knew better than Elder Yao how difficult it was to obtain a 9 transformation golden pill in the immortal realm. He had ascended to the immortal realm for so many years, but so far he had only heard of the 9 transformation golden pill and what it looked like after eating it. He had never seen it with his own eyes. This was in the immortal realm. If it was in the spiritual realm, it would be unthinkable. However, this scene actually happened in front of him. Master Yang in front of him, through some unknown means, actually got a 9 transformation golden pill, and he even ate it. This alone was enough to shake the entire spiritual realm, but Master Yang seemed to be unaffected. If Elder Yao hadn't seen the signs himself, perhaps Grandmaster Yang wouldn't have admitted it. He had always thought that Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Zhou Sheng was the biggest surprise in the spiritual world. Later, he discovered that the Zhao family's Dragon Clan's expert was the one. He never expected that Master Yang was the one. No matter how strong an expert was, could they be more shocked than a 9th grade alchemist? So what if he was a perfected golden immortal? Many 10,000 tribulation true immortals could not even beg for a 9 transformations golden elixir. Compared to Master Yang, whether it was Zhou Sheng or the Zhao family's Dragon Clan experts, they were not worth mentioning. When Grandmaster Yang said that he was not a 9th tier pill master yet, Elder Yao believed him. But this didn't lower his evaluation of Yang Chun. If he ascended to the immortal world in the future, Grandmaster Yang was the most likely candidate to become a 9th grade alchemist. Not to mention anything else, the internal inspection fluid alone made his eyes light up. How many peak 8th grade alchemists had not thought of a new drug, but a 7th grade alchemist in the spiritual world had already refined it. As for the origin of Grandmaster Yang's 9 transformations golden elixir, Elder Yao directly thought of a possibility. It was said that at the auction in the Reincarnation Valley, there was a mysterious woman next to Grandmaster Yang. The veil on her face was personally refined by the expert in the immortal world who made people tremble at the mention of his name. The veil could not be a natal magic weapon, so since that person could send the veil down, it was not a problem to send down a 9 transformations golden elixir. Even that mysterious woman was very important. It was not a big deal to carry 8 or 10 of them with her. It was difficult for Elder Yao to ask for a 9 transformations golden elixir, but if it was that person, it was nothing to carry it around and eat it like candy. This news was accidentally revealed by the Golden Immortal from the lower realm in Wuji Demon School. After Elder Yao accidentally learned about it, he regretted it. Now that he thought about this 9 transformations golden elixir, many things could come to light. Why could Grandmaster Yang have such a high level of alchemy? Apart from Grandmaster Yang's outstanding talent, having this level of elixir for Grandmaster Yang to study was probably one of the important reasons. Perhaps even Yang Chun himself could not imagine that Elder Yao had already thought of so much in such a short time. He had even thought of the origin of the 9 transformations golden elixir for Yang Chun. However, he did not know how Yang Chun would feel if he knew what Elder Yao was thinking. Logically speaking, that existence that could not be named should be the current Heavenly Court's enemy. However, Elder Yao had experienced the change of ownership of the Heavenly Court. He knew better than anyone in the spiritual realm how terrifying that person was. If he could be on good terms with Yang Chun in the spiritual world and thus indirectly form a good relationship with that person, he was willing to let Elder Yao pay a big price. After guessing Yang Chun's backer, Elder Yao became more confident about the outcome of the war with the Zhao family. It must be known that Yang Chun had not allowed that mysterious woman to make a move since the beginning, not even during the battle to save the Black Heaven sect. Such a big trump card had not been revealed yet. He believed that if the Zhao family faced her one day, there would definitely be an unexpected surprise. Of course, Yang Chun would not refuse Elder Yao's intention to be on good terms. Currently, Black Tortoise Academy was actually in a very awkward situation. The mortal world had Black Tortoise Academy. The immortal world had Black Tortoise Academy, but the spiritual realm just had to be cut off. This situation would inevitably lead to one consequence. For a very long time, Black Tortoise Academy in the immortal world would face the same situation as the Black Heaven sect in the spiritual realm. There is a huge possibility that after the Zhao family was destroyed, Elder Yao would have to stay in the spiritual realm and single-handedly support Black Tortoise Academy in the spiritual realm. The major sects would never be happy to see Black Tortoise Academy decline, but have a chance to rise. They would definitely secretly suppress it. Therefore, it was inevitable to be on good terms with a sect that could support each other. Now that Elder Yao had received such a great favor in Chunyang Palace, he would naturally return the favor in the future. After all, Elder Yao was also a golden immortal who had crossed the tribulation. Under the deliberate friendship, the development of Chunyang Palace would definitely get faster and faster. Becoming another super sect was by no means a dream. Both sides had their own thoughts, but they were certain of one thing, which was to become close allies for the time being. Yang Chun did not expect that he just ate a 9 transformations golden pill given by Big Brother Li Cheng to test the medicinal properties. The result was that it could lead to such a result, which was also a pleasant surprise. While all parties were busy preparing, the United Commander finally decided to take the initiative to strike first. However, before the real confrontation with the Zhao family, they must first solve the puppets controlled by Yang Shi's Great Freedom Demon Heart Sutra. It was still very reasonable to settle the internal affairs before resisting the external forces. Chapter 2350. The cultivators controlled by Yang Lan were not necessarily bad people, but they were ambushed for a while, and they couldn't help it. For these people, in fact, there was also a controversy within the Joint Command at the beginning. Whether they should be killed or controlled, They argued for a long time. In the end, the opinion of the Lord prevailed. In the end, those people were actually innocent because they were ambushed. They had to be controlled. God has the virtue of cherishing life. When it is possible not to kill, it is better to minimize some killing. It must be known that Yang Lan controlled some people in important positions this time. Killing one may cause a series of turmoil. Moreover, Yang Lan's control was strict. Unless they were attacked at the same time, otherwise, as long as a few of them were moved, Yang Lan would definitely find abnormalities. Once Yang Lan was allowed to launch, so many key figures would attack at the same time. I am afraid that the Joint Command will have a headache. Moreover, since it was an important key position, these cultivators in each sect could not be easily given up and ignored. The opinions of each sect must also be considered. The reason why the Joint Command has not moved for such a long time, in addition to exploring the whereabouts of the Zhao family's nest in the monster realm, it may not be that there is no reason to properly arrange these people. They can't be killed, and they can't be left alone. The Joint Command's head hurt from the quarrel. However, someone finally thought of a way to refer to and proposed it at the Joint Command meeting. The method was still based on the Chunyang Palace's resistance against the masters of the Xintian sect. The sect-level Immortal's cave mansion nested in the past. Since the other party controlled the puppets through spiritual awareness, then using a dozen Immortals cave nested, each of the innermost layers of the Immortal's cave was arranged with a set of spiritual awareness isolation methods. Could these controlled puppets be sent here to cut off Yang Lan's control? This was a method that could be considered. The sect-level Immortal's cave may not be able to come up with so many, but the ordinary Immortal's cave was definitely enough. The head of the Joint Command, the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island, immediately let the disciples of her sect start experimenting. The Green Jade Immortal Island had a controlled disciple. Under the order of the island master, he entered the deepest part of the Immortal's cave without any precautions. Because he was ordered to retreat and cultivate a secret cultivation method of the sect before, this statement did not arouse Yang Lan's suspicion. Suddenly cutting off the perception of the puppet did not make Yang Lan have a further reaction. After all, he was in seclusion, and he had definitely entered the core cave of the sect. It was normal for him to be unable to control it. When the Golden Immortal Tribulation, transcending Golden Immortal, faced this controlled disciple, he told him the truth. The controlled disciple was shocked. He couldn't remember when he had been plotted against. For the time being, the puppet disciple couldn't get rid of Yang Lan's spiritual seed, but he still stayed in the deepest part of the cave abode and let the Golden Immortal seal him. At least this was much better than being killed by his Grandmaster. Moreover, he still had a chance to regain his freedom after killing Yang Lan. If Yang Lan could perceive it, he would definitely react to this kind of action of the puppet disciple, but he did not do it for a long time, which meant that this method was indeed effective. As soon as the experiment was a success, there were no more objections from the Joint Command. No one wanted to lose the important disciples of their own sect. Since there was such a way to save their lives, then they would try to use this method to save the lives of their own disciples. The cultivators controlled by Yang Lan, for various reasons, either retreated or visited friends somewhere, and then disappeared almost on the same day. Such a huge plan involved so many cultivators. Just to let them concentrate on cutting off contact with Yang Lan at the same time, it used almost 20,000 to 30,000 loyal disciples of the Joint Command. Even so, there were still inevitable omissions. Almost 2,000 cultivators did not grasp the time well and entered the cave abode that had been arranged in time. However, compared to the more than 16,000 puppets discovered by the Joint Command before, these more than 2,000 cultivators were already a very small part. Most of the disciples of the super sect and the big sect have entered the safe cave abode. Even if the rest of them had an accident, the harm would be negligible. With such a large-scale puppet missing, even if Yang Lan was stupid, he knew that there was a problem. When he explored the state of the puppets that could still be contacted, he was shocked. Without saying anything, he immediately controlled the puppets that could still be controlled to attack. Unfortunately, it was obviously too late to attack at this time. Beside each puppet, there were at least 3 cultivators with higher cultivation bases than the puppets. They were afraid that once these puppets attacked, they would not be able to clean them up. Therefore, as soon as Yang Lan commanded the attack, the cultivators who were monitoring over there immediately took action. The formation and several specially prepared magic weapons were used to subdue the puppets as quickly as possible. This was an emergency measure that had been arranged for a long time. The Joint Command did not want to bear the charge of killing innocent people, so they tried to adopt the method of capturing them alive. After capturing the puppets, they immediately threw them into the cave abode that these masters carried with them, and tried to keep these puppets alive as much as possible. Yang Lan still found it a little late, and the disposal method was not decisive enough. When he found that his puppets were seen through, he did not immediately control these puppets to explode. This hesitation allowed the masters of the Joint Command to save the lives of almost 1,500 puppets. But that was all. There were still more than 600 cultivators who, after Yang Chan found out that something was wrong, immediately controlled the explosion and died. Hundreds of masters who besieged the puppets and tried to capture them were also injured. In general, Yang Lan's puppets caused less than 800 casualties to the Joint Command. This was negligible for the damage that could be caused by more than 16,000 puppets that had been controlled by Yang Lan. After the news came back from everywhere and the puppets were sent, the Joint Command finally breathed a long sigh of relief after the statistics were calculated. It could be said that it was a great success to solve more than 16,000 puppets at such a price. Yang Lan had carefully arranged for many years. As a result, he was caught by the Joint Command in a short period of a few years. His painstaking efforts did not play its due role. It was not known how depressed Yang Lan was now. In any case, the Joint Command seized another opportunity in the war against the Zhao family and made a good start. With such a large number of puppets being controlled, even if there were a few fish that escaped the net, it was no longer a concern. At this point, the sect in the spiritual realm has finally eliminated the internal hidden dangers, and most of their energy can be concentrated on the upright confrontation with the Zhao family. As long as Yang Chan is still here, even if those insignificant chess pieces are all thrown away, what's the harm? In the Zhao family of the demon realm, Yang Lan said with an unwilling expression on his face. Chapter 2351. Even if Yang Lan said that he didn't care, he still couldn't let it go. In order to control more than 16,000 puppets, Yang Lan didn't know how much effort he had put in and how much preparation he had made in secret. As a result, all of them were lost overnight. No one could accept it calmly. Originally, Yang Lan thought that his technique was secretive enough, and there were not many targets. He just chose the most critical cultivators to do it, but he didn't expect to miss his tracks. Yang Lan didn't know what went wrong with him. He hadn't been in the spiritual world for at least hundreds of years. It was incredible that he was still discovered. After thinking about it, the most likely reason was that when Zhou Sheng was provoked, the great principal golden immortals of the Shantian sect really didn't have enough reason to make a move against those masters of the sect, but they suddenly started a massacre. Even if those guys misunderstood at the time, after the Shantian sect was destroyed, someone would always see through all the arrangements and investigate in detail. It seemed that this was the only reason that could explain it. There were no other possibilities. But even if he knew that he had exposed himself in this matter, Yang Lan still felt pain. If he had known this earlier, he should have let those guys attack earlier, better than being silently surrounded by dumplings. At this time, Yang Lan was a little resentful of the senior members of the Zhao family. They wanted to do big things, but they were afraid of casualties. As early as after the Shantian sect was destroyed, the Zhao family should have immediately mobilized a large number of troops to attack any super sect. After all, at that time, the masters of those super sect were rushing to help the Shantian sect. Their own sect was empty, so it was the best time to make a move. Unfortunately, they were afraid of more casualties, so that a good opportunity would be lost. If hundreds of Xian Immortal Masters went to destroy any super sect at that time, the Zhao family would have the absolute upper hand in the comparison of strength between the two sides, instead of the current situation where the Zhao family seemed to be evenly matched, but in fact, the the Zhao family was slightly inferior. If the Zhao family had a super alchemist like Yang Chun, at least the injuries of those golden immortal masters would recover quickly, and they wouldn't have wasted so many years in vain. The stupidest thing was that the senior members of the Zhao family actually pinned their hopes on the Dragon Clan master. This was the biggest joke. That guy was clearly using the Zhao family. Did they really think that such a master would listen to the Zhao family? If the Zhao family had made a move earlier and cooperated with the puppets, the Zhao family would have definitely gained the upper hand again. They wouldn't have lost their puppets in exchange for negligible losses to the sects in the spiritual realm. No matter how resentful and dissatisfied Yanglan was, it had become a fait accompli that the puppets in the spiritual world controlled by him had been wiped out, and it could no longer be recovered. Yanglan's heart was very painful, but what he hated more was that the Zhao family actually waited for the Dragon Master to make further progress before they dared to fight against the sects in the spiritual world. Even the mortal generals knew that the battle would be over in a flash, but the family gave the sect to the Zhao family. These high-level members of the Zhao family were simply a group of pigs. They couldn't see the situation clearly, they couldn't seize the opportunity, and even their biggest reliance was unreliable. In this case, don't blame Yanglan for being impolite. As Li Cheng saw, Yanglan not only controlled a large number of puppets in the spiritual world, but he also did the same thing in the Zhao family. It was just that the Zhao family had masters in several of the most critical positions, and he couldn't find a suitable opportunity for a while. Before, Yanglan still worried about the serious consequences if he acted too hastily. But now, Yanglan couldn't care less. If there was no suitable opportunity, then he would take the initiative to create an opportunity. Right now, there was a good opportunity. The golden immortal masters of the major sect were looking for the whereabouts of the Zhao family's lair. Yanglan had to take advantage of it. The Zhao family was not a whim of Yanglan, but a premeditated plan. Yanglan's nature was a wolf in sheep's clothing. He would never be grateful to any sect, even to the Zhao family who saved him. After destroying the Xintian sect, Yanglan took over the hatred in his heart. At that time, Yanglan was the most comfortable. However, in addition to his hatred, he also had a huge dissatisfaction. The destruction of the Xintian sect was not thorough enough, and there were still fish that escaped the net. What made Yanglan even more upset was that these fish that escaped the net ended up benefiting Chunyang Palace and Yangchun, which was the most uncomfortable place for him. Fortunately, he had secretly controlled Yangchun for a long time. After thinking about it, the Xintian sect finally benefited Yanglan. Now most of the puppets had been cleaned by the major sect in the spiritual world, but Yangchun had not been treated like this. This made Yanglan very proud. He had arranged this step early, and no one dared to doubt Yangchun easily. When he thought of the scene where Yangchun and Chunyang Palace suddenly changed sides when a major sect and the Zhao family were fighting each other, Yanglan couldn't help but want to laugh proudly. Yangchun was not only Yangchun, but the entire Chunyang Palace only followed Yangchun's lead. When the Xintian sect was destroyed, Yanglan knew that Yangchun had two masters of the Dragon Clan and a golden immortal master. These forces added up, including Yangchun's elixir, were enough for him to unify the spiritual world. I'm afraid that the pigs of the Zhao family would never dream that when Yanglan first met the master of the Dragon Clan, it was also when the guy happened to have a problem with his cultivation. Yanglan planted the seed of the great free demon heart sutra in the sea of consciousness of the master of the Dragon Clan without any effort. The master of the Dragon Clan had actually been Yanglan's slave for a long time. The reason why Yanglan could hold his breath was that the master of the Dragon Clan was refining the demon realm. The master of the Dragon Clan had a terrifying magic weapon in his hands that could refine the demon realm. When that day came, it would be the time when Yanglan unified the spiritual world. A few decades ago, the master of the Dragon Clan could use such a magic weapon to block the self-explosion of the great principal Golden Immortal. After a few decades, if he refined more demon realms, wouldn't he be invincible in the world? If Yangchen's immortal beheading blade was counted, Yang Lan couldn't think of any master in the spiritual world that could stop his footsteps. When he thought that the entire spiritual world was about to tremble under his own will, Yang Lan had an unspeakable excitement. He even forgot the pain of losing more than 10,000 puppets that he had worked hard to accumulate for many years. After being proud, Yang Lan began to prepare for his own actions. First of all, with the power of the golden immortals of the major sect, he would remove or control the masters of the Zhao family who were not under his control. Chapter 2352. If there was more time, Yang Lan would still have the opportunity to control those few experts. However, it was a pity that from the way the major sect eliminated the puppets, the major sect would not give the Zhao family much time. This also meant that Yang Lan could not get much time. Since he could not get it, he could only destroy it. After destroying those few high-ranking experts, the rest would naturally be up to Yang Lan. The huge Zhao family would be under Yang Lan's control. The golden immortal experts of the Zhao family were basically recuperating and would not interfere with the affairs of the Zhao family for the time being. Most of the time, these golden immortal experts were very disciplined. They were only responsible for fighting and did not care about the affairs of the younger generation. This was also one of the reasons why the Zhao family could maintain an equal footing with a major sect in the early stage. For the time being, Yang Lan did not want to touch them. These were the forces that he could control in the future. The top priority was to get rid of the few guys in front of him. As long as they were cleared, the Zhao family would be under Yang Lan's control. If these golden immortal experts cooperated, then he would continue. If not, the Dragon Clan expert would not be a vegetarian. The golden immortal experts of the major sect would definitely not think that the Dragon Clan expert of the Zhao family knew their whereabouts clearly. Although Yang Lan did not understand how he did it, he could also guess that it was related to the refining of the demon realm. The experts of the dragon race were refining the spatial zone, but these golden immortal experts had recklessly appeared in this spatial zone. This was simply courting death. If it was not to maintain the pressure on the Zhao family, Yang Lan would have already let the Dragon Clan expert deal with these golden immortal experts. It was easy to trick the Zhao family experts. As long as Yang Lan used his brain, he could make a puppet of the Zhao family take the initiative to jump out and report to one of the high-level experts of the Zhao family. He found a hidden golden immortal expert of a sect who was seriously injured and let that expert decide. A golden immortal expert who was alone and seriously injured was simply a big pie falling from the sky. How could such a good thing be easily shared by all the high-level experts of the Zhao family? No matter what, he had to be the only one to take credit for such a huge contribution. Being overjoyed was not the exclusive right of some senior members of the sect. It was also prevalent within the Zhao family. In fact, it was even more prevalent than the sect outside. After all, the Zhao family was a behemoth that was even stronger than the mysterious Heaven sect. Controlling more of the Zhao family would mean great benefits, and no one would be willing to share the benefits with others. If it was a tough bone that they couldn't chew, then it was only right for everyone to share the risk. However, if it was a credit that they could obtain, then it was a completely different matter. This kind of mentality the Zhao family master has, Yang Lan also understands very well. After carefully inquiring about the situation of the lone golden immortal, the expert of the Zhao family was finally sure that he was going to hit the jackpot. Putting aside the fact that he would be able to gain countless benefits from killing that golden immortal expert, he would be able to gain countless benefits from the golden immortal expert. Quietly taking a few trusted experts with him, Yang Lan's goal was to let the puppet lead the way and go straight to the place where he found the lone gold immortal. In order to avoid being discovered by others and share the credit, he even set up a temporary retreat and stayed in the puppet's cave abode before leaving the nest. At this point, basically, this Zhao family master has been completely played by Yang Lan. Yang Lan controlled the puppet and easily brought the cave abode to the circle where the golden immortals of the major sect were patrolling. Several golden immortal experts were looking for the Zhao family's nest in the demon realm, but the demon realm was so big that they hadn't found the right place even after hundreds of years of entering. Just when everyone was about to lose their patience, they suddenly discovered a pleasant surprise. The puppet had never thought of hiding its figure from the beginning to the end, so it was discovered by the golden immortal experts from thousands of miles away. This was the first time they found the cultivators of the Zhao family after entering the demon realm, so they were all happy. When the Zhao family master was released from the cave abode by the puppet, he was shocked to find that he and several Xian immortal experts had fallen into the encirclement of 8 golden immortals. There was no accident in the course of the battle. What should have happened happened, and what should not have happened did not happen. The puppet exploded and died. The high-level expert of the Zhao family only thought that the puppet had accidentally fallen into the trap of these golden immortals, but he didn't think more. The cultivators of the Zhao family, who came out this time, were all tough guys. When they found that they had no hope of escaping and could not defeat these golden immortal experts, they all chose to explode and die like the puppet. The golden immortal experts still hadn't found the specific location of the Zhao family, but Yang Lan had quietly buried an expert of the Zhao family in front of him. The entire Zhao family was completely confused and had no idea what had happened. Under Yang Lan's control, he killed 3 high-level experts of the Zhao family, who he couldn't control with the same method. Only the last one was left standing in front of him. The disappearance of the 3 high-level experts had attracted the collective attention of the high-level experts of the Zhao family. Yang Lan could no longer use the same trick. However, at this point, Yang Lan didn't need to do anything anymore. All the high-level experts were aware of the crisis and began to gather together to discuss countermeasures. Among the high-level experts who participated in the discussion, only Yang Lan didn't control them. Basically, the process of the discussion was carried out according to Yang Lan's will. Soon, the high-level experts came to a conclusion that all the disciples of the Zhao family should be prepared to launch a war with a major sect at any time. The golden immortal experts who were exploring the demon realm didn't expect that their whereabouts were all under the surveillance of the Zhao family. They didn't even understand that they were the ones who took the initiative to bump into them, just like how Gong Sunling opened the geographical map of the mountain river and let those experts take the initiative to enter. Perhaps they had never thought that the world they were in was the target of other cultivators' refinement. If the experts of the Dragon Clan suddenly launched an attack, they might not be able to subdue these golden immortals instantly. After all, the other party had the advantage in numbers. However, if the golden immortal experts of the Zhao family were added, it was inevitable that they would have the upper hand. As long as they put in some effort, it was not impossible to finish off these golden immortal experts who rashly entered the demon realm before the follow-up reinforcements arrived. Just when Yang Lan had mobilized all the resources and even the experts of the Dragon Clan were ready, a sudden change occurred. The demon realm, refined by Gong Sunling's geographical map of the mountain river, finally encountered the demon realm, refined by the Dragon Clan experts of the Zhao family. The two sides were refined to the same place and inevitably collided. Suddenly, both sides were aware of each other's existence. More coincidentally, the location of the golden immortal experts of the major sect happened to be at the junction of the two sides. Chapter 23:53. The collision of the two refined spaces came so suddenly that before any other cultivators could react, an earth-shattering movement began to break out. At a certain place that should be the dividing line, there was a loud rumble and a mountain range appeared out of thin air. The flat land on both sides seemed to be squeezed together by an invisible big hand. Under the violent collision, the place of contact instantly bulged. The whole earth kept shaking in the roar. That kind of movement was like the end of the world. Both sides, who were about to start a war, were shocked and immediately jumped up like rabbits that had been shot by an arrow. None of the cultivators dared to stay on the ground. All of them flew into the air and looked at the violent earthquake on the ground in horror. They felt the explosion of spirit energy from the collision of the two spaces, and they were extremely frightened. The cultivators sent by the major sect were all golden immortal cultivators. Even if they didn't know what happened at first, they could vaguely guess some inside information at this time when the movement was so big. At the thought that they had been walking around in a certain space that was refined by an unknown expert, these golden immortal experts felt a burst of fear in their hearts. Exploring and moving in someone else's space without any precaution was simply a blatant provocation and an act of courting death. They didn't know why the other party didn't make a move at that time, but after understanding this point, it was enough to make them break out in a cold sweat. The Zhao family was also shocked. This situation was beyond their expectations. They knew that the expert of the Dragon Clan was refining the demon realm. But what was going on with this collision with the demon realm controlled by the expert of the Dragon Clan? This was not in the plan of any of the higher-ups of the Zhao family, nor was it in the plan of Yonglan. The sudden change made the higher-ups of the Zhao family collectively dumbfounded. The refined demon realm that they had been relying on had actually met its match at this moment. The collision of the space was so strong that even a group of golden immortal experts, even if they were all flying in the air, could not guarantee that the violent collision would not affect them. At this time, there was no need to talk about finding out the inside story. They should hurry up and escape from these two deadly spaces that were refined by someone else. Otherwise, no matter how powerful the cultivators were, they could only be trapped in it and be trampled on. The collision of the two realms caused both sides to be unable to do their best to keep these cultivators here. If they didn't leave now, then when? However, the two spaces had already been refined and had even collided with each other. No matter which direction one fled to, it was impossible to leave the boundaries of the two spaces. At most, one could only enter one of them. At this time, it was up to both sides to make their own choices. The Zhao clan knew that their Dragon Clan experts were refining the demon realm, and they also knew the direction of their refinement. Without saying a word, the higher-ups of Zhao family and their golden immortal experts who had yet to fully recover rushed over. The golden immortal experts of each sect dared not delay and flew to the other side. No matter what, the ones who collided with the space controlled by the Zhao family were definitely not their own people. No matter who this hidden master was, they still understood the principle that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Without hesitation, they rushed to Gong Suanling's side. Immediately, these golden immortal experts sensed the kindness of the owner of the space. An invisible barrier immediately appeared, isolating them from the earth-shattering movement. However, they did not take any further action and even allowed them to observe the collision of the two spaces from a relatively safe place. Although the owner of the space did not explicitly say that they could do so, the arrangement and the meaning of not directing their next action were clear. Naturally, these golden immortal experts did not want to miss this opportunity. To be honest, such an opportunity was rare even among the experts in the immortal world. It was common for two cave mansions to collide with each other, but the collision of two spaces that were one step away from reaching the world level could be said to be unique. Just by observing the result of the collision of these two spaces, it was estimated that they would gain a lot of insights. Everyone had left the immortal world. Without the powerful spiritual pressure of the immortal world, it was already difficult for them to improve their cultivation base. If they did not seize this rare opportunity to gain insights, when would they be able to do so? The collision between the two spaces was still very intense. To some extent, it was no longer just a collision, but a fight for the other side's space. The very obvious dividing line moved from one side to the other, and the heaven and earth kept producing loud roars. Countless mountain peaks appeared out of thin air and then disappeared into thin air. The movement was so big that it was unforgettable. Even the dividing line could not be maintained in a straight line. It protruded a little here and retracted a little there, constantly changing. It seemed that the fight between the two sides was very strenuous. This was no longer a simple battle between cultivators. It was simply a war that used the entire world as a weapon. The heaven and earth had become their weapon. Which cultivator could have such power in battle? The golden immortal experts of the major sect were dumbfounded. The experts of the Zhao family also frowned. Everything that happened suddenly was out of the control of the higher-ups of both sides. This was not a good thing for either side. The key point was that in the face of such terrifying power, no matter how strong the experts were, they were all reduced to supporting roles. It seemed that the deciding factor of victory was no longer cultivation base. How could these experts not feel a little lost? The higher-ups of the Zhao family were the first to react. Such a situation was actually relatively good. Although they did not know what kind of expert the other side was, they knew that none of the golden immortals of the major sect in the mortal world had such a spatial world. As for the Zhao family space, they clearly knew that it was in the hands of the expert of the Dragon Clan. The expert's cultivation base was not inferior to these golden immortals who had crossed the tribulation. He might even be stronger than them. Although it seemed that the two sides were still evenly matched, it was believed that the major sect side would soon fall into a disadvantageous position. The people on both sides were surprised, wondering who owned such a world and how the next war should be carried out. Yang Lan was also stunned by this sudden scene. For a moment, his mind was blank, and he even forgot how to deal with this complicated situation. Fortunately, the higher-ups of the Zhao family did not know that they were being controlled. They were still dutifully thinking about how to deal with the crisis. The collision between the two sides lasted for a full 3 days. They were equally matched. Finally, both sides realized that such a collision could not determine the outcome of the battle in a short time. Everyone began to retreat tacitly. The two sides slowly separated, each keeping a distance of 10 feet. Then, they began to speed up the refining in other directions, striving to gain the upper hand. Chapter 23:54. At this point, the cultivators on both sides couldn't fight even if they wanted to. The Zhao family felt that it was a pity, but the golden immortal experts of each sect felt lucky. Originally, the Zhao family had taken them by surprise this time. They were well prepared and wanted to take down these golden immortal experts of the demon realm. In the end, they could only give up halfway. The golden immortal experts of each sect had a completely different mood. The happiness of escaping from death made them feel greatly relieved, but at the same time, they were also afraid. It was really dangerous. If it weren't for the sudden collision of space, they would have been completely left behind. No matter who helped them, they all felt grateful. Fortunately, someone blocked the terrifying refined space. Otherwise, the major sect would have no need to resist and could only surrender obediently. However, they were not in a hurry. Since the owner of the space had accepted them, they would definitely show up. Sure enough, as the golden immortal experts expected, the scene in front of them suddenly changed, and they were in a strange place. Then, they saw a few familiar figures. Elder Yao of Xuanwu Academy was an old acquaintance. At this moment, he should be meditating in Chunyang Palace, but he was standing there. Standing next to Elder Yao was the alchemy master Yang Chun, whom everyone was very familiar with, as well as his wives and concubines. Is this Master Yang's magic weapon? After meeting, Grandmaster Su of Wuji Demon School had long dealt with Yang Chun. At this moment, he didn't care about being rude and asked Yang Chun directly. This is my wife's natal magic weapon. Yang Chun didn't hide it and told the golden immortal experts directly. At this point, Yang Chun no longer needed to hide anything. Since he was going to make a great contribution in the battle against the Zhao family, he naturally had to get the corresponding credit and treatment. He couldn't help the major sect solve the problem in silence. Gong Sunling took a few steps forward and bowed slightly to the golden immortal experts. Everyone understood that this was Gong Sunling's natal magic weapon. The reason why he told them that it was a natal magic treasure was so that they would not have any other thoughts. Otherwise, some cultivators felt that something like this shouldn't be in the hands of a few low-level cultivators. If they had other thoughts, the consequences would most likely be very unpleasant. The few golden immortal experts began to ponder over the meaning behind it. At the same time, there were a few who looked at Elder Yao from the Black Tortoise Academy with inquiring eyes. Although the spiritual world's Black Tortoise Academy had already sided with the Zhao family, Elder Yao, who had fought alongside these golden immortal experts, was still able to gain their trust. Elder Yao smiled faintly when he saw these inquiring gazes, but he did not say anything. Ever since he knew that Yang Chun had taken the 9 transformations golden pill, he had firmly stood on Yang Chen's side. At least in the spiritual realm, he would not do anything that would harm Yang Chen's interests. Actually, until now, Elder Yao still did not know what happened. He only knew that Yang Chun invited him to the world of Gong Sunling's natal magic treasure, and as a result, he saw these other golden immortal friends. Everyone had heard that Gong Sunling's natal magic treasure was a cave abode type. There was a period of time when Yang Chun plundered the entire spiritual realm for cave abode type magic treasures, just to upgrade Gong Sunling's natal magic treasure. Even the dozens of nested sect-level cave abodes in Chunyang Palace were obtained at that time. The golden immortal masters who knew that at that time, they were afraid that what Gong Sunling got at that time was not just a simple ordinary immortal's cave, but other unexpected good things. As for the fact that Yang Chun and Gong Sunling had never entered the demon realm, but could refine the space of the demon realm, although everyone had thought of this matter, no one was smart enough to ask a question. Among the cultivators, who didn't have a little secret in cultivation, this matter is of great importance. We have to inform the Joint Command as soon as possible. Ancestor Su did not care about anything else and quickly expressed his attitude. The Zhao family now knew that the situation had changed, but the Joint Command had not yet arrived. They must be informed so that they could make appropriate arrangements. The next moment, everyone changed the scene again, and the scene in front of them became abnormally familiar. There was a huge exit which people could recognize at a glance. That was the entrance and exit of the demon realm and the spiritual realm. Everyone was slightly surprised in their hearts. Gong Sunling had unknowingly refined so much of the demon realm. If this entrance and exit could also be refined, then the Zhao family would be directly trapped in the demon realm and would not be able to get out. Unfortunately, everyone understood that although it was easy to refine some land, it was not easy to refine such a spatial entrance and exit. It seemed that Gong Sunling had to stop here. This made the several golden immortal experts feel a little better. Although Gong Sunling's refining space was powerful, it still had some weaknesses. Yang Chun saw the expressions of the golden immortal experts, but he did not intend to explain anything. He smiled and then made a gesture of invitation towards the spatial exit. Exiting from a spatial exit was the heavily armed forces of the various sections. It was to block the Zhao family's entrance and exit. At the same time, the Joint Command also had a high-level contact person here. Together with Yang Chun and Gong Sunling, the various golden immortal experts and Xuanwu Academy's elder Yao appeared at the exit of the demon realm. Soon, the higher-ups of the Joint Command appeared in front of everyone and brought them to the meeting place. All the higher-ups of the Joint Command had a serious look on their faces. The new situation was quickly explained to the Joint Command by a golden immortal representative. The Joint Command thought of the danger at that time and looked at the golden immortal experts in front of them who seemed to be unscathed, and all of them heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there was an unforeseen event, otherwise the major sect would have suffered a crushing defeat. The Zhao family's attempt to refine the demon realm was finally seen through. What was even more gratifying was that the Joint Command also had countermeasures. Even if they couldn't counterattack, at least they could not fall into a disadvantageous position in a short period of time. The situation suddenly changed, and all the previous arrangements had to be redone. But one thing was certain: Chunyang Palace was no longer the inferior sect that only had the right to know, but an important sect that everyone had to rely on. Since the demon realm can be refined, can we find a location of the Zhao family's lair? The island master of the Green Jade, Immortal Island, asked after pondering. The main purpose of the golden immortal experts entering the demon realm was to find the lair of the Zhao family. If they could skip this step, the Joint Command would be more relaxed. Reporting back to the island master, "We haven't found it yet," the island master asked. Gong Sunling hurriedly replied, "They are on the other side." Everyone nodded when they heard this. This was also normal. If Gong Sunling could directly refine the space with the Zhao family's lair, then they didn't have to do anything. They could just wait for the victory. Chapter 23:55. In any case, it was a fact that the war situation had changed. Therefore, the way to deal with it had to change accordingly. Fortunately, the major sects still had Yang Chun, Gong Sunling, and a magic weapon that could compete with the master of the Dragon Clan. At least, the major sect was in an invincible position. As for when Gong Sunling began to refine the realm of monsters, it was no longer important. What was important was that she could resist the invasion of the Zhao family. What the Joint Command wanted to know the most was how many realms of monsters Gong Sunling had refined, and whether she had taken half of the realm of monsters. If she could really compete with the Zhao family, then there was still a lot of hope, and it could be resolved without too many casualties. Of course, this was impossible. The Zhao family had been plotting against the realm of monsters for tens of thousands of years, not just 1 or 2 years. The preparation for refining had begun during the devil tribulation of the spiritual realm, and it had been more than 1,000 years. Gong Sunling had started refining the realm of monsters after refining the Heaven's Calamity Cemetery. Even if she had seized a lot of territory with the power of the Heaven's Calamity, it could not be compared to the thousands of years of refining. The Joint Command was not clear about the specifics, but everyone understood one thing. The Zhao family had been plotting against the realm of monsters for a much longer time than Gong Sunling. At most, Gong Sunling had only found a foothold in the realm of monsters. With this foothold, at least when fighting with the Zhao family, they would not be helpless because of the refined space. It could be considered as a stable backing for the major sect. Although the realm of monsters was not worse than the realm of monsters, the realm of monsters was not controlled by any cultivator. In this regard, the guy from the Zhao family who plotted against the realm of monsters at the beginning was simply delusional. How could he think of refining a realm? It was conceivable that after the Zhao family refined the realm of monsters without any hindrance, the next step would be the realm of monsters. At the thought of the situation after the entire realm of monsters was refined by the Zhao family, everyone shuddered. Inevitably, some people asked about the theory behind Gong Sunling's refinement of a realm. This was purely a discussion of cultivation, and it had nothing to do with the current situation. However, the cultivator was also very polite. He did not look down on Gong Sunling just because of her low status. The origin of the mountain river geographical map was inevitably revealed. This was the Dragon Clan's sea-suppressing treasure. Because of a coincidence, it fell into the hands of Yang Chun, and Yang Chun gave it to Gong Sunling as her natal magic weapon. The mountain river geographical map was born with the ability to devour space. So Yang Chun spent a period of time frantically collecting immortal cave magic treasures to upgrade the mountain river geographical map. Even the sect, which commanded all the higher-ups present, had provided Yang Chun with a cave abode at that time. Gong Sunling frankly said that it was precisely because she had absorbed enough space and cave dwellings during that time that she had the ability to refine the demon realm. Continue refining with all your might. Refine as much as you can. After learning that the demon realm had not been completely refined by the two sides, the island master of the Green Jade, Immortal Island, immediately instructed, since it has become like this, then they might as well do it to the end and grab as much territory as they can. Standing on their own side may determine the power of victory or defeat. Of course, they must vigorously cultivate. They can't just let them work without benefits. The major sect masters opened their bags and took out a batch of immortal cave magic treasures again and handed them to Gong Sunling for refining, so that Gong Sunling could increase the power of the mountain river geographical map. At this time, even if it was only to increase a little advantage, it was good. At least with the mountain river geographical map, the Golden Immortal Masters no longer had to worry about the ubiquitous monster beasts of the demon realm. They could follow the pace of the refining of the mountain river geographical map and explore the spiritual world on a larger scale. The Golden Immortal Masters did not realize that there were actually few monsters in the place where they were at the time. Everyone naturally thought that it was because the power of the spatial collision was too great and those monsters were driven away. They did not think that, in fact, the place where they were at the time was the immortal world in the mountain river geographical map. According to the rules, these golden immortals could only stay in the immortal world. Even Lin Jingyuan and Madame Bai were no exception. Now, in the mountain river geographical map, there were only a limited number of cultivators in the immortal world. Yang Chun and Gong Sunling did not want them to meet, so naturally, they could not see many. And Yang Chun had to divide the refined demon realm into two, one part in the spiritual world and the other in the demon realm. Anyway, after the refinement, the third primordial spirit had the final say, so it was easy. The war had broken out, and everything needed to be efficient. After a short discussion, the senior members of the Joint Command decided to send most of the masters into the Mountain River geographical map, accompanied by Gong Sunling, so that they could observe the battle situation in the demon realm at any time and anywhere. Similarly, the refined demon realm was also used as the base of the major sect in the demon realm to avoid fighting in the spiritual world and affect the cultivators of the entire spiritual world. This method, if used in an ordinary war, was equivalent to fighting in the enemy's territory. The difference was that the refined demon realm was still their own territory. Strictly speaking, it was their own property that was destroyed. For Yang Chun, the Joint Command still had absolute trust. The advantage of being stationed in the Mountain River geographical map was not only convenience, but also safety. Master Yang had enough medicinal pills to deal with at any time and anywhere. Even Master Yang's personal disciple, Mo Chunmei, who was also a promising 6th-grade alchemist, was also stationed in the Mountain River geographical map and stepped up her alchemy. In this way, as long as the joint sect controlled the entrance and exit of the demon realm, all the battles would take place in the demon realm, and the gate of the spiritual world would be safe. This was the result that the major sects were most satisfied with. What everyone had to do now was to fight to the death with the Zhao family in the demon realm. As long as the Zhao family was eliminated, everything could return to a perfect track. The new situation also meant a new way of fighting. Now the major sect had sent masters into the Mountain River geographical map and appeared directly at the border between the two sides, and some small-scale battles broke out with the masters of the Zhao family, who would appear from time to time. This kind of battle had become very frequent and very flexible. There was only a buffer zone of 10 feet between the two sides, and the battle took place in this area. Once they found that their side could not hold on, as long as they returned to their own area, they could leave at any time. Sometimes, when there was a battle in one place, a large number of masters would immediately follow, turning the small contact into a group fight. However, this kind of battle did not cause too much of a result. Both sides had learned well. Once they saw that the situation was not good, they would retreat immediately. It was not ruled out that some unlucky people were seriously injured and killed in the battle before they could leave the battlefield. However, there were only a few of them on both sides. The number was very small, and it did not affect the overall situation of the battle. Chapter 23:56. Both sides had already discovered each other's traces, so all the refining actions became naked and undisguised. They began to fight for territory with great fanfare. The Zhao family was also very depressed. They had already started refining the monster realm for thousands of years, but they didn't expect it to be so difficult. After such a long time, they had only refined less than half of the monster realm. Many things happened during this period that the Zhao family was tired of dealing with. Especially in the past 2,000 years, there were many accidents which directly delayed the refining process. Otherwise, according to the inertia of the later stages, the monster realm should have been refined by this time. They might even have been able to enter the spiritual realm. Unfortunately, the world was unpredictable. First, something happened to the Zhao family in the mortal world, which then affected the layout of the Zhao family in the spiritual realm. After enduring for tens of thousands of years, they directly became the public enemy of the spiritual realm when they were exposed. If it weren't for the Zhao family's good management for so many years, they would have been wiped out by the major sect. Later, due to the mistakes of several high-level juniors of the Zhao family, the Three River Alliance, Holocaust sect, and 10,000 Monster sect were directly wiped out. In addition to the other small sect that secretly attached themselves to the Zhao family, the Zhao family lost nearly 10 million cultivators in the spiritual realm. Such a heavy loss was simply cutting off the Zhao family's flesh and blood. No one would be able to bear it. They finally succeeded in launching the demonic tribulation in the spiritual realm. But because Yang Chun broke the seal, the tens of thousands of years of planning had to be activated in advance. They almost failed at the last moment. In any case, they finally dealt with the mysterious Heaven sect and successfully destroyed the mysterious Heaven sect in the spiritual realm. At the same time, they also killed great Principal Golden Immortal Zhou Sheng. This time, the Zhao family had the upper hand. How good would it be if it could continue? Unfortunately, Yang Chun and Gong Sunling suddenly jumped out and were actually refining the monster realm. They even went head-on against the experts of the Zhao family. This time, it was much more interesting. Based on the current situation, the Zhao family had refined about 40% of the monster realm, while Gong Sunling had only grabbed 10% at most because of the short time. There was still 50% of the monster realm that had not been refined. Both sides were now frantically fighting for this part. This was what made the Zhao family even more upset. The Zhao family had been planning to refine the demon realm for more than 10,000 years. Not to mention the preparatory activities, just the official refining time alone was more than 1,000 years, and only a mere 40% had been refined. However, Gong Sunling managed to snatch 10% from the Zhao family when she started refining it decades ago. The speed at which she refined it was absolutely shocking to those who knew about it. There was no other way. The Mountain River geographical map now had the third primordial spirit as the artifact spirit. It had a complete grasp of the heavenly Tao and was even divided into 3 realms. With the help of the 3 dragon spirits, it naturally had the upper hand over the Zhao family. The addition of the heavenly tribulation of the mortal world and the heavenly tribulation of the spiritual world made the Mountain River geographical map even more powerful. On the way to refining the world, there was no magic treasure more suitable than the Mountain River geographical map. This is not a complete calculation of the refining of the demon realm. The Mountain River geographical map has become a complete independent world. In this regard, the Zhao clan, who had started refining from the demon realm, simply could not compare. Of course, the entrance to the demon realm had already been refined. This entrance saved Gong Sunling at least a few decades to add a connection point between the 2 realms. This alone gave her a lot more time than the Zhao family. Now the 2 sides were competing for the remaining 50% of the demon realm. But the speed of the Mountain River geographical map was at least 3 times faster than the refining speed of the Dragon Clan Master of the Zhao family. However, in the end, the Zhao family had the upper hand and still occupied most of the lead. If this trend continues undisturbed, in the end, the Zhao family would still be able to occupy almost half of the advantage in the demon realm. But if the demon realm and the heavenly tribulation were counted, the Mountain River geographical map still had the absolute upper hand. As long as it was done step by step, it could occupy a good situation. Unfortunately, sometimes things are really unpredictable. Things that should and should not always happen inadvertently, which will directly affect the final result. The plundering of the demon realm territory lasted for almost half a year. Yang Chun, who was concentrating on his cultivation, suddenly received a message that several high-level members of the Joint Command had come to visit. Without saying a word, Yang Chun stopped his cultivation and came out to receive them. This was the time to show cooperation. Of course, Yang Chun would not be unruly, nor did he put on any airs. In order to make contact nearby, Yang Chun spent most of his time at the entrance to the demon realm. Now, this was also the area where the high-level members of the Joint Command were located. Basically, the contact people of each sect were in this area. It was very convenient for the Joint Command to find people from any sect. Although it was a high-level visit, the real core high-level members of the sect masters, did not come. Only 8 or 9 high-level elders of each sect came. Basically, about half of the core high-level members of the Joint Command sect were in the sect. It is a great honor for the elders to visit. No matter what, it was always right for Yang Chun to be polite first. No one could find anything wrong with it. Several elders, under the hospitality of Yang Chun, said some polite and nutritious cliches, but during the conversation, they winked at each other from time to time, as if they had something to say but were embarrassed to say it. Seeing this situation, Yang Chun did not hold back and took the initiative to ask, "May I know what the elders are here for?" Seeing that Yang Chun also took the initiative to speak, the elders looked at each other, and then one of them spoke seriously. "Grandmaster Yang, these days, the army of the spiritual realm and the Zhao family have fought no less than hundreds of battles, and there have been casualties on both sides. The elder who spoke was a core elder from the Ghost Een sect of the demon sect. His surname was Yu, and it seemed that these visiting elders were also led by him. This is normal. Since there are battles, there will definitely be casualties. It is inevitable. Yang Chun continued and waited for the next sentence. He found a strange situation. None of the elders who came to visit him were from the Dao sect, which was very strange. There are many golden immortals in the Zhao family, and they did not appear in the battle. Elder Yu of the Ghost Een sect continued. According to our guess, there is a high possibility that they are helping the dragon race expert of the Zhao family to refine the demon realm. That is possible. Yang Qin nodded and admitted Elder Yu's words, but he did not say that there was a high possibility that he was recuperating. There are many golden immortals in the Zhao family who participated in the process of refining the demon realm. I am afraid it is a little disadvantageous for us. Elder Yu finally said the purpose of everyone's visit. Grandmaster Yang, can you ask your wife to let go of the control of her natal magic weapon and let our golden immortals join in and refine it together? As soon as the words came out, Yang Qin's face became very ugly. Chapter 23:57. These guys were actually after Gong Suanling's Mountain River geographical map. Thinking about it, it was normal. A spatial magic weapon that could refine a world was also a super magic weapon that could only be encountered in the immortal world, let alone in the spiritual world. It should be known that when Zhou Sheng self-detonated, the Dragon Clan expert of the Zhao family relied on another similar spatial magic treasure that had refined a small part of the demon realm to block the self-detonation of a real Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal expert close at hand, and was safe and sound. It was well known that the Earth Attribute spatial magic weapon could have considerable defensive ability. But that was just an ordinary spatial magic weapon. Think about a spatial magic weapon that could refine a world. What kind of concept was that? Didn't Yang Chun rely on this to block Zhou Sheng's self-destruction? Although Yang Chun and the others were relatively far away at that time, 100 miles away, at that time, the Mountain River geographical map had probably not refined a trace of the demon realm yet. Without refining the Mountain River geographical map of the demon realm, it had such power. It was natural to attract people's attention, especially when this magic weapon was still in the hands of a little girl who seemed to have a good cultivation. Although Gong Sunling was also the famous fairy drifting cloud. After all, Gong Sunling had always been attached to Yang Chun, and her extraordinary martial strength was not very strong. In addition, she came from a small upstart sect, like Chunyang Palace, so it was inevitable that she was looked down upon. An unprecedented magic weapon was in the hands of a junior at the late Xian Immortal, or at most at the peak of Xian Immortal, and it was revealed. It would no longer be a secret in the future. Even if Gong Sunling could keep this magic weapon in the spiritual world, once she ascended to the immortal world, it was unknown how many cultivators would openly or secretly covet the Mountain River geographical map. Instead of giving it to some unknown cultivator, it was better to solve it in the spiritual world. This was the thought of several golden immortal masters. However, when these words were said to Yang Chun, Yang Chin's face darkened on the spot. These guys actually wanted Gong Sunling to let go of the control of the geographical map of the mountains and rivers. How could this be tolerated? The geographical map of mountains and rivers was Gong Suanling's natal magic treasure. What was a natal magic treasure? That was a matter of life and death, something that could not be lost. Usually, there were very few magic treasures that could seriously injure a cultivator. Letting go of control and allowing other cultivators to interfere, what kind of wonderful thing was that? The geographical map of mountains and rivers is my wife's natal magic weapon. Yang Qin couldn't figure out how shameless these guys were to say such a thing. He said with a sullen face and dissatisfaction. Yang Chun wanted to lash out immediately, but on the eve of the battle with the Zhao family, if there was such internal friction, even the Joint Command might not want to see such a situation. A bunch of useless teammates. Yang Chun didn't even know how to describe these guys who came to visit. It was a good situation, but they had to make some messy things, as if they would be uncomfortable if they didn't make some trouble. They were the core executives of the major sect. Using pigs to describe them was a bit demeaning to pigs. However, there was no limit to greedy desire. Yang Chun could imagine how irrational these guys were when they were blinded by desire. Back then, Zhou Sheng and Lin Zhongxuan could easily replace sect masterly. So what if the golden immortal experts of other sect did something out of line against the disciples of other sect? What Yang Chen didn't know now was that this matter was caused by these guys in front of him, or was it caused by the golden immortal masters behind them, or was it caused by the sect masters of the major sects in the joint command? At least, none of the sect masters had come forward so far. Only these core and high-level elders had come forward. Moreover, several Dao sects and those who had a close relationship with him, such as Yin Yang Demon School and Wuji Demon School, were not among them. Perhaps this was just a whimsical idea of a few guys. Grandmaster Yang, you must have misunderstood something. Hearing Yang Chen's unhappy tone, Elder Yu laughed and slowly explained, I don't want your wife to hand over the natal magic weapon. I just want to share the control so that the golden immortal ancestors can help me and speed up the refinement of the demon realm. What he said was dignified, but everyone was a cultivator. Who didn't know the Tao in this? To give up the control of the natal magic weapon, in other words, was to directly open up one's own sea of consciousness so that the other party could forcibly join in the control of the natal magic weapon. To snatch someone else's natal magic weapon, one had to kill the other party in order to obtain it. Moreover, it had to go through a long period of sacrificial refining and fusion before it could be successful. Back then, Shi Shanshan had only taken the initiative to change a natal flying sword. Until now, she had not completely fused it to the previous state safely. The difficulty was obvious. However, if one took the initiative to open up one sea of consciousness, it was equivalent to cooperating with the other party to snatch one's natal magic weapon. If the other party's spiritual sense was stronger than the magic weapon's owner, it would be easy to snatch it. This was no different from opening the door to a thief. If those golden immortal experts really had no other intentions, it might be able to speed up the refining of the demon realm to a certain extent. However, this was only to a certain extent, unless the other party's cultivation was far higher than Gong Sunling's. The problem was that Gong Sunling was now at the level of peak Xian Immortal. Compared to those golden immortal experts, she was only a step behind. Moreover, this was the result of Gong Sunling's deliberate suppression. If necessary, Gong Sunling could turn herself into a real golden immortal at any time and place, not to mention the cultivation of spiritual sense. Under the situation of dual cultivation of the supreme mystery Yin Yang Heart Sutra with her husband, Gong Sunling's spiritual sense had long broken through the zenith heaven golden immortal, far surpassing the few golden immortal experts. Now that these guys said that they wanted to help at this time, they could only add a little bit of use, and they might even be a hindrance. After all, her own sea of consciousness was disturbed by the other party, and she had to be on guard, so the efficiency would definitely be reduced. This was also based on the situation that the other party did not have any crooked thoughts. If they had bad intentions, the consequences would be needless to say. This, I'm afraid, it's not very convenient. Yang Chun did not give these guys space to daydream, and directly refused. My wife's cultivation method is special, and the method of refining the natal magic treasure is also different from ordinary people. I'm afraid others can't help much. Thank you for your kind intentions, golden immortal ancestral masters. His words were directly refused, but Yang Chun did not intend to offend these guys in front of him. After all, at this time, everyone still had to work together to deal with the Zhao family. If there was an internal conflict, he was afraid that it would not look good for the joint command. Yang Chen also did not want to carry a bad reputation. He only hoped that after these guys understood his firm refusal, they would stop those messy thoughts. Chapter 2358. In front of a formidable enemy, it was really not suitable for internal strife. Yang Chen's idea was good, but he still underestimated the greed of some people. Master Yang, don't reject it so quickly. Elder Yu still had a smile on his face. For the core higher-ups of the Ghostine sect, It was as easy as eating and drinking to take things out of their pockets with a smile on their face. Being rejected was nothing. They had a lot of excuses. This is related to the overall situation. Master Yang, it's better to think about it. Elder Yu, do you mean that if I don't think about it, it will destroy the overall situation? Yang Chen's face had regained its calmness at this moment. He did not look angry at all. He even asked with a smile. Yang Chen's smile was very light, giving people a feeling that he did not care about anything. Ordinary friends who were familiar with Yang Chen would feel very comfortable when they saw this kind of smile. Those who were not familiar with Yang Chen would have a little resentment towards him, because there seemed to be a faint contempt in his smile. But those who were really familiar with Yang Chen to the extent of intimacy, such as Yang Chen's wives and concubines, when they saw their husband smile, they would be ready to fight. Because this smile meant that their husband was already angry, but he was still holding it in. Maybe the next moment, if there was a disagreement or some people were too annoying, it would be the moment when Yang Chen would explode. This is a serious matter. Elder Yu still had a very sincere smile on his face. He said with a smile, Master Yang, don't say things out of anger. Please think about it. After all, this is not just a matter of Chunyang Palace, is it? Is this the intention of all the higher-ups of the Joint Command, or just a few of them? Yang Chen did not lose his temper, but asked a question first. Is there a difference? Elder Yu's sincere smile was very annoying at this time, but he still continued as if he did not feel it at all. Believe me, Master Yang, the few golden immortals don't mean anything else. They just want to help. If Master Yang thinks that it is necessary for the higher-ups of the Joint Command to come forward, it is also a small matter. Of course, this is a matter of great importance. I believe Grandmaster Yang will not be able to make a decision immediately. Without waiting for Yang Chen to speak again, Elder Yu took the initiative to stand up and bid farewell, saying, Master, you can think about it first, or discuss it with the others and make a decision as soon as possible. If that's the case, then please forgive this Yang for being slow. See our guests out. Yang Chen also stood up and said without any expression on his face. From the beginning to the end, the elders of the other sect didn't say anything. Elder Yu was the one who spoke. It seemed that the golden immortal patriarch of the Ghostine sect had the most ideas, or was this guy who started it? The golden immortal experts of the other sect were also tempted. Just now, Elder Yu had also said that it was no longer important whether it was a joint command or not. If a few golden immortal grandmasters had this thought, the sect masters of their sect would have to obediently follow the elders' wishes. Even if this matter was brought to the joint command for discussion, the result would probably not be different. After all, those golden immortal grandmasters were still the main force against the Zhao family. They were unlikely to go against the wishes of these golden immortal grandmasters because of a small Chunyang palace in Yangchun. Grandmaster Yang, think about it carefully. When Elder Yu walked out of the door, he did not forget to remind Yangchun with a smile. Although Chunyang Palace seems to have some scale, it is just a tacit agreement for the disciples of Xintian sect to join. At best, it is just a sect that has just gained a foothold. Grandmaster Yang, don't ruin the future of Chunyang Palace because of a moment of impulse. Or maybe we should talk to Palace Master He of Chunyang Palace in detail. The threat in these words was very obvious, and he was threatening Yangchun with the future development of Chunyang Palace. From these words, it was clear that he was determined to get it. Judging from Yangchun's performance in the spiritual world, Yangchun had always taken good care of his own sect, Chunyang Palace. For Chunyang Palace, a loyal disciple was definitely a good thing. But on the contrary, the fact that Yangchun valued Chunyang Palace also let people see the way to restrict Yangchun. Yangchun was not afraid of these people talking to the head of the palace. He believed that the head of the palace would still give priority to his own opinion. But it was undeniable that these words of Elder Yu really angered Yangchun. I don't think I need to think about it. Yangchun directly gave Elder Yu a clear answer. I don't agree with this. You guys, please go back. Don't come back to ask for my opinion. He did not expect Yangchun to give such a reply, and Elder Yu was also very surprised. He thought that with the coercion and temptation, coupled with the golden immortal ancestors and the righteous name of taking the overall situation into consideration, Yang Chun would have to carefully consider the consequences. He did not expect Yang Chun to directly refuse their request. This time, things seemed to be difficult to handle. "Don't be so full of words, Master Yang." The smile on Elder Yu's face did not change. In a demonic sect like the Ghostine sect, the most important thing was not to let others see his own thoughts and feelings. In this aspect, he had already reached the point of perfection. Yang Chen's refusal that did not meet his expectations had not moved him to the point of being moved. Whoever drags us down in dealing with the Zhao family is the enemy of the entire spiritual world. Elder Yu smiled lightly and said, "Master Yang is a smart person. You must understand this truth. Then we will wait and see." Yang Chan retorted without batting an eyelid. "Those who return kindness with enmity will always be evil wherever they go. They won't be able to achieve anything big." The golden immortal experts of the major sect were almost besieged by the experts of the Zhao family previously. It was only when Gong Sunling coincidentally collided with the demon realm refined by the expert from the dragon clan of the Zhao family that the crisis was resolved. At this time, those guys did not say that they were grateful. Instead, they coveted Gong Sunling's natal Dharma treasure. If this was not returning kindness with enmity, what else could it be? That's just what you hypocrites of the Tao sect who claim to be righteous people think. Elder Yu would not care about Yang Chen's words. If it was not for the fact that their cultivation realm was lower than Yang Chen's, they would have already taken action. At this time, he could only put down a few tough words. "We are all demons in your eyes. We have never cared about these things." This was not wrong at all. The Ghostine sect was originally a demonic sect. The people of the demonic sect had never taken the loyalty and righteousness of the Tao sect to heart. They advocated another set of rules of the jungle. As long as there were enough benefits, why would they return kindness with enmity? Now that the Zhao family was the mortal enemy of the spiritual world, the Tao, demons and demons that were originally opposing each other joined forces to fight against the enemy. In fact, everyone knew that as long as the Zhao family was eliminated, the spiritual world would probably return to the era where the Tao, demons, and demons sect fought openly and covertly. This was something that had been engraved in his bones and had never changed. Chapter 2359. Only a hot-blooded young man who had only lived for 10 or 20 years in the mortal world would fight without saying a word. For an old monster like Yang Chun, who had lived for more than 3,000 years, he could still restrain himself before falling out with others, although he was still a child to his opponents. As for the opinions of those elders of the sect, Yang Chun didn't bother to say anything at all. His attitude was very clear, which was to refuse, and there was no possibility of compromise. As for Gong Sunling, would she object to her husband's decision? Even if she didn't listen to Yang Chun, would she be willing to hand over the natal magic weapon that she had painstakingly refined with her husband? Of course, Elder Yu of the Ghostine sect and several elders who followed him would not let it go. Without Yang Chun pushing for this matter, those people took the initiative to make trouble at the plenary meeting of the Joint Command Conference. It was those people's means to take things by force, but it depended on the time. At this time, all the major sect in the spiritual world were working together to deal with the Zhao family. If they took action against Yang Chun and Chunyang Palace without any excuses, perhaps the top management of the Joint Command Conference would be the first to be unwilling. If they didn't come up with some righteous reasons to suppress Chunyang Palace and Yang Chun, they wouldn't dare to take action casually. As Elder Yu said before, at this time, whoever dared to hold them back would be the enemy of the entire spiritual world. If they didn't take the initiative, whoever took action first would die first. Elder Yu and the others were not qualified to make any suggestions directly at the Joint Command Conference. Their suggestions were conveyed by the suzerains of their respective sect. As soon as this suggestion came out, it directly caused an uproar at the Joint Command Conference. Everyone was a successful cultivator. Who couldn't see the problem in it? They said it in a dignified manner, but in their bones, they didn't hide their greed. In particular, these sect members were either the Dark Sect, the Demon Clan, or the alliance of individual cultivators. They were typical ruthless and two-faced. At most, they could only believe 30% of their words. And this was on the basis that everyone was on the same side. Otherwise, the possibility would be even lower. But this time, these guys all acted righteously as if they had always been the representatives of the great and righteous image of serving the public wholeheartedly. None of their words and suggestions mentioned that they might take the opportunity to seize other people's natal magic treasures. They only said that they wanted to help, but it made people unable to refute them for a while, saying that they had ulterior motives, but at this time, everyone should be working together to deal with the Zhao family. If they directly refuted it, the other party would inevitably use it as a pretext to make a fuss. They would say that everyone was gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a lowly person. If a few sect members were to fight, it would probably cause an even bigger incident. Moreover, this suggestion was clearly made by the sect masters of the sect, but anyone with a discerning eye would know that this was the intention of the golden immortal grandmasters of the sect. Right now, they were the main force to deal with the Zhao family. Their cultivation was high, and their seniority was respected, so their opinions had to be carefully considered. For a time, all the higher-ups of the Joint Command fell silent. Everyone was weighing how to deal with this matter so that it would not affect the situation against the Zhao family. However, not everyone gave face to these sect members. Wang Yong, the representative of the Chunyang Palace, who was sitting at the end of the table, had a bad temper. When these guys just proposed it, he couldn't help it. When he saw that other people were still thinking about it, he suddenly exploded. "Can you be more shameless?" Wang Yong directly said in anger. "You don't even know how to repay the life-saving grace, but you are planning to take away other people's natal magic treasures. Admirable. Admirable. If we fight against the Zhao family for such a group of things, then it is better for the Zhao family to unify the spiritual world." Compared with Yang Chun, Wang Yong was even more impatient, and he directly attacked in front of all the sect masters. Originally, if the Joint Command wanted to participate in this kind of meeting, it should be attended by the sect masters of each sect. However, the Chunyang Palace had no right to make suggestions, only the right to listen and know. So it was Wang Yong who was in charge. The words of Wang Yong directly made several sect masters, including the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island, blush. Previously, they were still weighing which was more important between these golden immortal masters and the Chunyang Palace. But now these thoughts were directly thrown out of the window. As Wang Yong said, if everyone worked hard and made all kinds of sacrifices to fight against the Zhao family and save this kind of ungrateful guy, it was really better not to save them. Although the way the demon sects did things was like this, and they did not abandon their principles of doing things, but at this time, it was not the right time. If they wanted to talk about the rules of the demon sects, they would have to wait until everything was over. At this time, it is not appropriate to do these insignificant things. The chief commander of the Joint Command, the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island, spoke, but she did not directly refute the words of the Ghost Een sect master, but expressed her opinion in a more gentle way. It was not an easy thing to coordinate so many super sect and big sect. A fiery temper would definitely not be able to sit as the sect master, let alone the position of the chief commander of the Joint Command. For the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island to say so, it was already a clear statement of her position. She did not support it because it was not appropriate. It was as simple as that. Of course, there was still disdain and anger for this kind of behavior in her heart, but she did not show it. As soon as the island master spoke, the sect masters of the Blue Cloud sect, the Five Elements sect, and the Chinquin sect also echoed. The Tao sect's cultivators had the same view on this point. They could still hold the bottom line in public. Surprisingly, the two demon sects, the sect masters of the Yin Yang Demon School and Wuji Demon School, also supported the opinion of the island master, and their reasons were more direct. They should not do this. This would make the entire spiritual world cultivators who participated in the war against the Zhao family bitterly disappointed. The stance of these two sects was surprising, but it was also reasonable. Although they were demon sects, these two sects had a very close relationship with Yang Chun. The great elder of Yin Yang Demon School, Lady Fanghua, and her 30 beautiful disciples were Yang Chen's concubines, and Yi Yu, the son of the next sect master of Wuji Demon School, Yi Jinxiong, was a pro-disciple of Yang Chen. The demon clans Samsara Valley also expressed their support for the island master, which was a little surprising. However, the sect master of the Ghost Yin sect was also surprised. When Elder Yu and the others contacted in private, the Samsara Valley expressed that they would not participate and support it. At this time, it was just a public statement of their position. It was just that these sects' appearance showed that they did not support it, and the pressure on the Ghost Yin sect side was great. After all, the golden immortal ancestors of these sects were still there. If the strength of the two sides was really compared, it was almost a tie between those who supported and those who did not support. It was not an easy thing to obtain a moral high ground on the head of the Joint Command. Chapter 2360. In fact, in the end, it was still a matter of strength. The Ghost Yin sect dared to stand up like this because there were several golden immortal masters standing behind them. Sometimes the words of these people really had to be considered. Those sects whose golden immortal masters had already died, such as the Great Wilderness sect, did not speak from beginning to end, as if they were in Chunyang Palace, only listening and not speaking, only retaining the right to know. Could it be that the kindness of our golden immortal masters is disheartened because of a word that it is not suitable? Of course, the sect master of the Ghost Yin sect would not give up. He immediately said with a sullen face, "Does Grandmaster Yang think that he can solve the Zhao family by himself?" Grandmaster Yang never said that. The island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island shook her head directly. On the contrary, the golden immortal masters of your sect seem to be a bit anxious. If you really want to help, you should take advantage of the opportunity when the golden immortal masters of the Zhao family are not on the battlefield and kill some of their ordinary masters. This is more meaningful for us, and maybe we can even force their golden immortal masters to come out. The reason why this suggestion was made was that the golden immortal masters of the Zhao family had not appeared, so the Ghost Yin sect united with several sects. They all felt that this was the golden immortal masters of the Zhao family helping the master of the Dragon Clan to refine the demon realm, so they had an excuse to come forward to help. If we can't even accept this kind of kindness, I'm afraid our golden immortal masters will be very unhappy. The sect master of the Ghost Yin sect was not afraid to make things big. Originally, he was not convinced when the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island won the position of commander-in-chief. Now, if he could take the opportunity to get the island master down, it would not be a bad thing. In terms of the golden immortal masters, there were 8 who supported the Ghost Yin sect and only 7 who supported the Chunyang Palace. The Ghost Yin sect had the upper hand. If they really made a fuss, the result was really not certain which side would win. Perhaps the two sides should be evenly matched. Don't forget, there was Elder Yao of the Black Tortoise Academy in the Chunyang Palace, who was a proper golden immortal. However, because the Xuanwu Academy in the spiritual world had defected to the enemy, he had nowhere to go and was arranged to stay in the Chunyang Palace. Eating the food of Chunyang Palace, he naturally couldn't mess with Chunyang Palace. Thinking about it, Elder Yao would definitely support Chunyang Palace and Yangchun. In that case, it would be 8 against 8, evenly matched. Don't bring up the golden immortal grandmasters. The island master was not a pushover. If she still showed weakness at this time, her reputation within the United Command sect would be ruined. No one in the sect would listen to her anymore. Let's talk until the heavens are broken. If the other party is not willing, then no one should have any other thoughts. If someone acts on their own and causes Grandmaster Yang to withdraw from the fight for the demon world with the Zhao family out of anger, who can bear the responsibility? Without waiting for the sect masters to speak, the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island asked the most direct question at that time: which of your golden immortal sect can deal with the master of the Zhao family? This was the crux of the problem. Gong Sunling was now the most important weapon to deal with the master of the Zhao family dragon clan. The Mountain River geographical map was also the only magic weapon that could fight against the space magic weapon of the Zhao family. If Gong Sunling gave up, all the sect present would not be able to bear the consequences. Several golden immortal masters were also greedy and wanted to take the opportunity to seize it. They didn't think about such a deep problem. At this time, when the island master brought it up, the sect masters of the sect who shouted the fiercest suddenly became silent. The problem is that with Fairy Lu Yun's cultivation base, she is at a disadvantage in the battle with the Zhao family for the demon world. The sect master of another sect next to her pondered for a while and said, "Can we only watch us fall into a disadvantage and let the Zhao family take advantage of us? Knowing that we will fail if this continues, shouldn't the island master consider how to win and defeat?" Using a spear to attack a shield, this was the cleverness of this guy. Everyone established the joint command to integrate the power of the spiritual realm and win the war with the Zhao family. But now it was obvious that Gong Sunling was not the opponent of the other party. If they didn't make some improvements, it would be unreasonable. The joint command could be said to exist in name only. Everyone fell silent again and began to seriously think about how to solve the current situation. Even Grandmaster Wang Yong couldn't make a guarantee in the face of this problem. After all, no one knew the true power of the Mountain River geographical map, so no one dared to make a guarantee. Just as everyone in the Joint Command was discussing the problem, more than a dozen Golden Immortal Masters were also arguing together. It was still the Golden Immortal Master of the Ghost Een sect who took the lead. However, the conversation between these masters was not as secretive as it was in the Joint Command, but went straight to the point. The Mountain River geographical map is such an important thing. It can't be in the hands of a little girl with insufficient cultivation base. The Golden Immortal of the Ghost Een sect said directly, "We must ensure that the most important thing is always in our hands. Only then can we have the hope of defeating the Zhao family. Each of us can take action and fight for it, no matter who gets the chance." The Golden Immortal of the Ghost Een sect continued, "Whether Chunyang Palace or Yangchun agrees or not, it must be done. Unless we are willing to accept the reality that the Zhao family rules the spiritual realm, we can only do our best to fight for it." It sounds so nice, but isn't it because you want the magic treasure of others? Elder Su of Wuji Demon School snorted coldly and said, "Don't think so highly of yourself. Don't we know what kind of person you are? Of course I have selfish motives, and I have never denied it. The people of the Demon Gate had an advantage. That was, they never hid their viciousness and greed." The Golden Immortal of the Ghost Een sect admitted with a smile, "But have you never been tempted? Don't tell me you have never had any thoughts." Everyone had the idea, but the difference was whether they had implemented it or not. However, the Golden Immortals of the Tao Gate suppressed the greed in their hearts out of morality and their own principles. Enyang Demon School and Samsara Valley were unwilling to become enemies with Yangchun. As for Grandmaster Su of Wuji Demon School, he simply did not dare to have more ideas. Yangchun had a woman wearing a veil made by that person. In the Battle of Xiantian sect, there was also a Golden Immortal expert and several experts of the Dragon Clan who helped. Not to mention the latter, the mysterious woman alone was enough to make Grandmaster Su behave when facing Yangchun. If Elder Yao of Xuanwu Academy was here, he would definitely have the same idea as Grandmaster Su. Daring to touch the brain of Yang Chen's wife's life source magic weapon. How big of a string in his brain was this wrong to have such a thought? Do you want to control a few more Golden Immortal slaves? At this moment, Yang Chun was asking Gong Sunling, "They have taken the initiative to send themselves to me. I can't refuse." Chapter 2361. The debate over the joint command continued, but Wang Yong of the Chunyang Palace was temporarily deprived of the right to speak because of his repeated rude remarks. Wang Yong was sealed in a small seal formation by several Xian immortal masters. He could hear and see, but he couldn't express his thoughts. Even though Grandmaster Wang Yong had also obtained the Heavenly Yuan Pill, it was still too early. His cultivation level was just nearing the Heaven Immortal level, and he was still far from it. In front of so many Heaven Immortals and Xian Immortals, Grandmaster Wang Yong had almost no power to resist. In fact, even if Wang Yong wanted to express something, not many people would care. This world was very realistic. There was the existence of morality, but what was more decisive was power and strength, not the public opinion of one or two weak people. In fact, what Wang Yong wanted to say, which of the senior executives of the Joint Command didn't know? It was nothing more than scolding the Ghost Ean faction for being ungrateful and protecting the interests of their own disciples. Over and over again, there were only these 2 points and nothing else. Asking Grandmaster Wang Yong to be muted was also the collective idea of the higher-ups. Muting was muting, but it did not deprive Wang Yong of the right to listen. This was the Joint Command, and the senior executives who participated had made a heart demon oath. Of course, they would not casually violate it. The focus of the problem now was still on the use of Gong, Sunling's magic weapon. The island master felt that they should let nature take its course, and then the major sect would continue to work hard to find a way. On the other hand, the Ghostine sect thought that the Golden Immortal Masters should take action to help Gong Sunling overcome the difficulties and increase the odds of winning. Basically, everyone occupied half of it. Although it was not to the point of quarreling, there was also a kind of tense atmosphere. Why do you say that Gong Sunling is at a disadvantage? The island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island was now basically on the side of Yang Chun, and the question given was very direct. Gong Sunling and the other party are evenly matched. The Golden Immortal Masters have seen it with their own eyes. How can you say that she is at a disadvantage? Because of the relationship with Shi Shanshan, the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island valued Yang Chun very much. This was basically the case for all the sects of the Dao sections. Each sect had disciples who were Yang Chen's wives and concubines. It could be said that their relationship was very close, and Yang Chen also gave him a lot of face. The key was that Yang Chen's growth potential was amazing. Even from the reality, the Dao sects did not want to offend Yang Chen, who was also from the Dao sects. One reason for the Ghostine sect to take action was that Gong Sunling was at a disadvantage. In order to ensure the victory of the spiritual world, the Golden Immortal Masters must help. But if this assumption was not established, why should the Golden Immortal Grandmasters take over the natal Dharma treasures of others when they had the upper hand or were tied? This point could not be refuted by the Ghostine sect. At that time, even those Golden Immortal Masters had to admit that it was Gong Sunling's Mountain River geographical map that saved them. Moreover, in the space collision with the master of the Zhao family, the Mountain River geographical map was indeed on par. Moreover, just from the time when the two sides began to refine the demon realm, Gong Sunling was not at a disadvantage at all. The Zhao family had been plotting the demon realm for more than 10 or 20,000 years. Everything had been arranged earlier, and Gong Sunling had only been refining the demon realm for a few decades, and she already had such a capital to fight against the other party. In time, it was not impossible for Gong Sunling to gain the upper hand. Since the other party could gain the upper hand without help, why should others intervene? Not only should they share most of the credit, but they also had ulterior motives and wanted to seize the other party's life source magic weapon. Not to mention Yang Chun. If the other party was replaced by the people of the Ghostine sect, they would not agree. However, since they had made up their minds, these cultivators would not flinch because of a trivial reason. Immediately, the sect master of the Ghost Soul sect said, "You can't say that. The Zhao family has been plotting the demon realm for many years, and Gong Sunling has only refined the demon realm for a few decades. How can it be compared with the other party? This is the Zhao family's delaying tactic, deliberately misleading us and letting us be deceived. For the sake of insurance, it is better to let the Golden Immortal Ancestors join in. In addition, even if it is really a tie, with the participation of the Golden Immortal Ancestors, the advantage will be more obvious, and the certainty of the decisive battle will be greater. Isn't it better for the spiritual realm?" The sect master of the Ghostine sect then said, "Do you not want to see our spiritual realm cultivators gain the upper hand and eliminate the Zhao family as soon as possible?" This was a big hat, which was useless to the people of the demon sects because they never cared about reputation and integrity. But for the cultivators of the Dao sects, it was the principle and bottom line that must always be adhered to. If they carried this hat, they would be condemned by the cultivators of the entire spiritual realm, and it would make the sect masters of the several Dao sects speechless. This is not a reason. The island master shook his head directly and said in a cold voice, "If someone in the spiritual realm is dissatisfied, he can come to my green jade Immortal Island to reason. I will definitely give him a satisfactory answer." The other party was pestering endlessly, and the island master also directly used a big move. If they were dissatisfied, the green jade Immortal Island would accept it. As soon as the island master said this, Wang Yong, who was in the seal, directly gave the island master 2 thumbs up, nodded frequently, and agreed. The leaders of the other Taoist sects were also supportive of the idea. Even the leaders of the Yin-Yang Demon Sect and Limitless Demon Sect were in agreement. In that case, let's talk about the real reason. At this point, the sect master of the Ghost Yin sect also knew the firm attitude of the Tao sects and several other sects to support Yang Chun and Chunyang Palace. So he offered the real trump card. To be honest, whether it is Master Yang or Gong Sun Ling, they're all disciples of Chunyang Palace. Chunyang Palace? We can't believe it. What do you mean? The island master was angry. What did he mean by Chunyang Palace can't believe it? Could it be that Chunyang Palace had a secret relationship with the Zhao family? Wang Yong, who was in the seal, was even more angry. If he had not been sealed by the formation, it was estimated that he would have rushed out and made a move. The island master stared straight at the sect master of the Ghost Yin sect and said in a deep voice, "Make it clear. It's going to make it clear." The sect master of the Ghost Yin sect stood up. "Everyone, Chunyang Palace has long delineated the Sunset Rock, Linyang River, and the Hatred Sea as their territory. This is well known. In fact, from the beginning, in addition to these places, Master Yang also chose several other places as alternatives. I believe you all know that, right? This thing had happened, and everyone knew that even the Sunset Rock, Linyang River, and the Hatred Sea were obtained by Chunyang Palace under the mediation of several Tao sects super sect at that time. It was undeniable. But none of these places has been affected by the devil tribulation." The sect master of the Ghost Yin sect said with a sneer, "What's more coincidental is that these places happen to be on the edge of the devil tribulation. Isn't this too coincidental?" Chapter 2362. In the past, everyone had always thought that Yang Chun had no choice but to get the Sunset Rock, Linyang River, and Separation Hatred Sea for Chunyang Palace. But later, it turned out to be a blessing for Chunyang Palace. This small territory not only had enough spiritual veins, but also was not affected by the devil tribulation. During the devil tribulation, the demon beast just rushed to Sheeping Mountain in front of the Sunset Rock, and Sheeping Mountain happened to be blocked by the courtyards of the 5 Taoist sect, making the territory of Chunyang Palace completely the safest rear. Coincidentally, the branch of the 5 Taoist sect in Sheeping Mountain was also opened under the temptation of the huge mineral resources and spiritual veins given by Yang Chun. If people only thought that Chunyang Palace was lucky before, now hearing the words of the lore of the Ghost Yin sect, combined with the previous news, they carefully reviewed the places that Yang Chun had planned to get. As the Lord of the Ghost Yin sect said, those places happened to be places that were not affected by the devil tribulation. That was to say, no matter which place Yang Chun chose as the mountain gate of Chunyang Palace at that time, it would not be affected by the devil tribulation. This was indeed a little too coincidental. So coincidental that people had to suspect that there was something wrong with it. In addition, Master Yang once unsealed 8 Xian immortal masters and a dragon puppet from various places. Obviously, the Lord of the Ghost Yin sect had done enough work before and put forward all his doubts. The 8 Xian immortal masters happened to be distributed at the edge of the outbreak of the devil tribulation. Isn't this too coincidental? The dragon puppet was controlled by the Murong sisters at that time. So when they explained to the 5 Elements sect, they did not conceal the place of unsealing. Even the place of unsealing the dragon puppet was not concealed, and the others were naturally not extremely confidential. After the devil tribulation, under the intention of all parties to inquire, the girls did not keep it a secret. Now these things were put together, and summed up, there were indeed some problems in the things revealed. At this time, even the island master could not directly speak for Yang Chun. Several other lords who had originally supported Yang Chun also fell silent and began to ponder. What's there to think about? The representative of Chunyang Palace is here. Can't we just ask him to explain? Seeing this, the leader of the ghost sect laughed. He did not hide the complacency in his heart and showed it all on his face. Before the island owner made a decision, he directly targeted Wang Yong, who was sealed and could not speak. Grandmaster Wang Yong's seal was undone, allowing him to speak. However, he was only limited to explaining these coincidences and couldn't talk about anything else. Everyone's gaze was focused on Grandmaster Wang Yong's face, waiting for him to explain. However, Grandmaster Wang Yong's face was filled with disdain. He looked at the sect leader of the Ghost sect, as if he was looking at a despicable person. What's there to explain? Grandmaster Wang Yong's tone was exactly the same as that of the Lord of the Ghost sect. Then, it immediately turned into disdain. We are lucky, can't we? I'm afraid luck can't be explained away. Since he had shown his cards, the Lord of the Ghost sect was not so anxious. Instead, he calmed down and said, if he didn't know the news of the devil tribulation in advance, how could he do this? So what if he knew it in advance? Grandmaster Wang Yong was not afraid of making things worse. He admitted directly, yes, our Chunyang Palace knew this in advance. What does it have to do with you? If he didn't collude with the Zhao family, how could he know this in advance? The Lord of the Ghost sect immediately seized the topic. In fact, Chunyang Palace has always been inextricably linked with the Zhao family, right? Just when all the sect in the spiritual realm were working together to fight against the Zhao family, Grandmaster Wang Yong suddenly admitted that he had known about the devil tribulation for a long time, which immediately caused the whole United Command to talk about it. Now everyone knew that the devil tribulation of the spiritual realm was a disaster caused by the Zhao family. Some sect leaders looked at Grandmaster Wang Yong with hostility. Knowing this means that he colluded with the Zhao family? The disdain in Grandmaster Wang Yong's eyes became more and more intense. And even with a hint of sarcasm, he said, my sect's disciple, Yang Chun, directly destroyed the manor of the Zhao family in the mortal world. The entire manor of the Zhao family is in the hands of my sect. Is it strange to know something about the Zhao family? As soon as they heard the reason given by Grandmaster Wang Yong, most of the cultivators in the United Command suddenly understood. The manor of the Zhao family was seized by Yang Chun, and there were some unique records in it. It was not a big deal that Yang Chun and Chunyang Palace knew about it. Since you knew it, why didn't you inform us in advance so that we could avoid losses? When the Lord of the Ghost sect saw that the thing he had carefully prepared was refuted in an instant, he was anxious and hurriedly asked. This guy had evil intentions. In his questioning, he involved all the sect members. Most of the sect members in the spiritual realm and the devil realm had suffered heavy losses. His question really aroused the common hatred of everyone, and they looked at Grandmaster Wang Yong with even more hostility. If Yang Chun had reminded them a little, many sect members would not have suffered heavy losses. This was indeed a painful memory that none of the sect members were willing to recall. Now that the past was mentioned again, especially when they knew that there might have been a chance that all this would not have happened, everyone felt even more uncomfortable. Are you my son or my grandson? At that time, we were hunted down and didn't even have a place to stay. Which one of you said anything? Why should we tell you the great benefits? Grandmaster Wang Yong would not fall for his trick. He replied, tit for tat. Besides, let me tell you, who knows if you colluded with the Zhao family at that time? Who knows if the guys around you were spies of the Zhao family? Tell you, so that you could prepare to disclose it to the Zhao family in advance. Grandmaster Wang Yong's answer just hit the sore spot of the Lord of the Ghost sect. One of his confidants was a spy of the Zhao family, and he had been found out and executed. Now Grandmaster Wang Yong said so. It was clear that he was provoking him. Everyone knew why the Chunyang Palace wanted to seek territory at that time. It was because they were hunted down and didn't even have a place to stay. After the palace master and the others ascended, they were suppressed and chased by a subsidiary sect of the Xiantian sect, Chimen sect. Similarly, none of the major sects reached out to help. Thinking about it, in that case, why should the Chunyang Palace tell them this kind of news? As Wang Yong said just now, you're not my son or grandson, Why should I give you the benefits? In this way, the Chunyang Palace in Yangchun would at most have a reputation of not reporting it. By the way, they could use this to obtain a little benefit for their own sect. It was really not a sin. The major sects were not the emperors of the spiritual world. If all the benefits were not given to them, it would be a sin of 9 familial extermination. It's better to remind them. Even the island master smiled bitterly and said with a little complaint, "Isn't the reminder enough?" Grandmaster Wang Yong didn't care about this and asked loudly, "If it weren't for Yangchen's reminder, would you have Sheeping Mountain Courtyard for all your disciples to stay?" Chapter 2363. When Wang Yong said that, at least a few of the Tao sect masters were speechless. Yangchun indeed didn't say it clearly, but the actual benefits were obtained by them. This was undeniable. In addition, the few of you don't pretend to be indignant here. Since the opponent had already made a move, Grandmaster Wang Yong wasn't afraid of offending them. The few sects that are occupying the other places, don't tell me that they aren't your subsidiary sect. His words were directly directed at the few demon sects. These guys clearly got benefits from Yangchun, but they still wanted to use these to frame Yangchun. They had never seen such shameless people. Everyone's eyes were gathered on the faces of the Ghost Een sect and Ghost sect masters. The few old guys' lips pouted a few times, but in the end, they couldn't say anything to deny it. Who were the people present? How could they be deceived? There was no point in denying it. However, these few old guys of the demon sects were indeed thick-skinned. As the demon sect masters, if they couldn't even bear this little bit of ridicule, they would have been killed and buried countless times. In the face of Grandmaster Wang Yong's ridicule, they just curled their lips and didn't say anything. The scene began to fall silent. No one spoke again. Grandmaster Wang Yong was about to say something, but he saw that the important sect masters, including the island master, were listening attentively. He wasn't someone who didn't know the depth of things, so he immediately controlled his mouth and didn't speak again, lest he was sealed again. There was no other possibility than those golden immortal grandmasters who could send a message to these sect masters at this time. This wasn't the time to completely fall out with them. The venue of the Joint Command Conference had always been within the range of the golden immortal grandmasters' divine senses. They had heard everything that had happened in the Joint Command Conference from the beginning to the end. This conference had never been guarded against these golden immortal grandmasters. The Ghosteen sect, Ghost sect, and several other golden immortal experts of the other sect had already openly admitted their greed for Gong Suanling's Mountain River geographical map in front of the other golden immortal experts. This was obvious. Even if they didn't admit it, everyone could see it clearly. But they also knew very well that if they wanted to make a move against Yangchun, the opinions of those golden immortals who also came from the immortal world were also very important. Even if he couldn't get them to agree, he had to get them to stay out of it. Otherwise, if internal strife broke out, they wouldn't be planning to deal with the Zhao clan, but would be making contributions to the Zhao clan. Let's get straight to the point. In addition to the geographical map of mountains and rivers, there's another thing that we have to do with the Chunyang Palace. At this point, these guys simply threw caution to the wind and dragged one down with them. Chunyang Palace has accepted the disciples of Xiantian sect. This is the most unreassuring thing about them. At the mention of the Black Heaven sect disciples, none of the cultivators present spoke again. The Black Heaven Gate had always been a thorn in the hearts of the major sect, from the mortal realm to the spiritual realm to the celestial realm. Especially after the extermination of the Taishaman in the mortal realm, all parties have been on guard against the Black Heaven Gate, intentionally or unintentionally. They were all cultivators, and they all knew that the future was long. They all knew that it was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. No sect would believe that the Black Heaven Gate would let go of the hatred of the extermination of the Taishaman and not pursue it. There would always be a day when this matter would be settled. There was originally a Black Heaven Gate in the mortal realm, but it was later exterminated. Only then did the masters of the Black Heaven Gate use the name of the Taishaman to rise again. After returning to the clan, they didn't change the name of the Taishaman. This was a way to take warning. This matter was clear in the hearts of the major super sect. The sect that had exterminated the Black Heaven Gate in the mortal realm had now become history. The Black Heaven Gate had never intended to let them go. Now that even the Black Heaven Gate in the spiritual realm had been exterminated, one could imagine how furious the Black Heaven Gate in the immortal realm would be and what kind of consequences it would bring. Although this matter had nothing to do with the major sect, and even the extermination of the Taishaman in the mortal realm could be said to have been played to death by the Black Heaven Gate's own disciple, Yang Lan. At that time, the major sect had participated in the battle to besiege the Black Heaven Gate. Logically speaking, this kind of hatred should have nothing to do with the major sect, provided that the Black Heaven Gate in the immortal realm was willing to reason with everyone. But now, who could guarantee that the Black Heaven Gate in the immortal realm was a reasonable sect? Why did those disciples of the Black Heaven Gate switch to Chunyang Palace, worship the ancestor of Chunyang Palace, and make a heart demon oath to have nothing to do with the Black Heaven Gate? Wasn't it because Sect Masterly considered that if he didn't do this, he might not even be able to keep the lives of those disciples, so he had no choice but to do so? At that time, what would the major sect do? As long as this group of Black Heaven Gate disciples ascended to the immortal realm one after another, it would always make the senior members of the Black Heaven Gate remember those unpleasant past events. Once some things were done, they couldn't go back. At that time, the major sect thought that this was a good way. It not only settled those Black Heaven Gate disciples, but it also didn't need to bear the reputation of killing these Black Heaven Gate disciples. It seemed appropriate, but there were still hidden dangers in the end. It stood to reason that since these Black Heaven Gate disciples had already joined Chunyang Palace, worshipped the ancestor of Chunyang Palace, and made a heart demon oath, all parties should believe that they would not pose a threat to them. But the principle was the same. The Black Heaven Gate might not be a reasonable sect, and as a super sect, which one of the major sects was really reasonable? Who knew if those disciples would still think about the Black Heaven Gate and find an opportunity to fight back? So many Black Heaven Gate disciples, who were domineering favorites of the spiritual realm not long ago, suddenly became obedient when they came to Chunyang Palace. If they were told to do closed-door training, they would do it, and if they were told not to go out, they would not go out. This situation was the most terrible. Right now was an excellent opportunity to use Yang Chen's uncooperative reason to make a move on the entire Chunyang Palace and take the opportunity to end this big trouble. Anyway, there was selfishness and a little bit of fairness. In fact, most of it was greed, which led to the current situation. These words could be said to the sect masters of each sect, but they couldn't be heard by Wang Yong. This was also the scene in the Joint Command Conference. Whether you support or oppose it, we're going to do it anyway. The Golden Immortal Grandmasters of the Ghost Een sect and the Ghost sect had already made their positions clear, almost forcing all parties to make a statement. What are you going to do? If you really can't do it, we understand. You can choose to watch from the sidelines. If you really oppose it, then we can only compete with each other first. The naked attitude was there, and the words had also been made clear. Now, it was left for the Golden Immortal Grandmasters and sect masters of each sect to make their own choice. Chapter 2364. Sometimes things were so strange. When you tried your best, you might not get the desired result. If you didn't hide your intentions, there would be an unexpected surprise. At least now, the sect leader of the Ghost Een sect was a little surprised. He had used all kinds of reasons before, but he couldn't get the support of the Joint Command. But now that the Golden Immortal Grandmaster had exposed his greed and ambition, he had an unexpected gain. Although he still didn't get the consent and support of the Joint Command, he wasn't stopped by the Joint Command. They didn't support it, but they didn't oppose it, which was already a huge improvement. At least when they made their move, no one would come forward to stop them. It should be easy for a few Golden Immortal Grandmasters to deal with a few juniors in the Xian Immortal stage. When they had Gong Sunling's geographical map in their hands, Chunyang Palace would be a dish that they could eat whenever they wanted. Originally, the matter was basically settled. With the tacit consent of the sect of the Joint Command, there would be no change. But still, there was no absolute in the world, and variables still happened. The Golden Immortal Grandmasters of the Dao sect, after weighing the pros and cons, chose to wait and see. They didn't support it or oppose it, because Yang Chun couldn't guarantee that the Xintian sect wouldn't pursue the responsibility of the major sect after they arrived in the immortal world. Similarly, the Golden Immortal Grandmaster of the Yin-Yang Demon School also chose to wait and see. Although Lady Fanghua was Yang Chen's concubines, the reason was basically the same. The Golden Immortal Grandmaster of the Reincarnation Valley didn't even have such a relationship, so he also chose to wait and see. Although the Tao sect and the Yin-Yang Demon School were related to Yang Chen by marriage, in the face of such a major event related to the interests of the sect, they had already given enough face by not standing on the opposite side of Yang Chen. Sometimes, cultivators were more realistic than mortals. But surprisingly, Elder Su of the Wuji Demon School had been standing on Yang Chen's side from the beginning to the end, unwavering. Even several Golden Immortal Masters joined forces to persuade him for a long time, but Elder Su didn't change his mind. If it was not necessary, no one wanted the Golden Immortal Elders to fight amongst themselves. The few Golden Immortal experts tried their best to persuade Elder Su, but they still couldn't get Elder Su to agree. The relationship between Yang Chen and Wuji Demon School was only that the son of the next leader of the school was Yang Chen's direct disciple. It was far from being close to the relationship between Taoism and Yin-Yang Demon School. However, Elder Su was like a tortoise eating a weight on a steelyard scale. He was determined to not agree no matter what. Was it because of Yang Chen's elixir? At this point, everyone felt that it was a pity. Yang Chen was now a 7th-grade alchemist. In the future, it was very possible for him to become an 8th-grade alchemist or even break through to 9th grade. However, if they wanted to seize Gong Sunling's Mountain River geographical map, they couldn't avoid Yang Chen. They were afraid that Master Yang might not have a good ending. After all, he had to face so many Golden Immortal ancestors. Even the sect master of Wuji Demon School felt a little strange. Since his Golden Immortal ancestor came to the lower realm, he had always been a smart person. Why did he make a mistake on this matter? But on second thought, he had always been a smart person. How could he make a mistake on this matter? There must be some secrets that he couldn't know. As a sect master, there was no fool. The sect master of Wuji Demon School didn't say anything and took his Golden Immortal ancestor as the standard. His will was the decision of the Wuji Demon School. However, for the Golden Immortal ancestor of the Ghostine sect, this was already a huge improvement. Originally, there were 7 Golden Immortal Masters who opposed them, but now there was only one. The resistance had been greatly reduced. Even if Elder Yao of the Black Tortoise Academy was added, there were only 2 of them. They had an absolute advantage in numbers. Don't forget, Master Yang still has Elder Yao of the Black Tortoise Academy, an unknown Golden Immortal Master, and at least 2 Golden Immortals of the Dragon Clan. Elder Su didn't want all this to happen, so he tried to dissuade them. His way of dissuading them was to directly tell everyone about the powerful assistance around Yang Chen. Several Golden Immortal Masters who were tempted pondered. They were dazzled by the Mountain River geographical map and didn't care so much about it. Now that they thought about it, it was indeed a little reckless. Master Yang personally killed at least 2 Golden Immortals of the Zhao family. Elder Su didn't forget to add on. When we rushed to the Black Heaven sect, at least 6 to 8 Golden Immortals of the Zhao family died in the hands of Master Yang. Of course, you must remember that Master Yang still has the thing he got from the Immortal Beheading platform. Elder Su looked at the changing expressions on these guys' faces and wanted to laugh. Maybe it's the Immortal Beheading Saber, or maybe it's something else. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it must be very powerful. By the way, don't forget the Mountain River geographical map. Elder Su sneered in his heart and reminded them. If you make a move, you must think of a way to be stronger than Zhou Sheng's self-destruction. Otherwise, I'm afraid with the Mountain River geographical map protecting him, your attacks won't even reach Master Yang. These words could only be heard by those Golden Immortal Masters. The sect leaders at the Joint Command Center hadn't received this news yet, and were still waiting for their respective Golden Immortal Patriarchs to make a decision. The Golden Immortal Masters led by the Ghost Yin sect's Golden Immortal Masters were covered in cold sweat. After all their calculations, they actually missed out on Yang Chen's powerful strength. They even forgot to take into account the Mountain River geographical map that they had been eyeing. If they really fought, just the Mountain River geographical map alone could make them defenseless. How could they fight then? Elder Su was still sneering in his heart. He didn't even mention that mysterious woman. Didn't you see Master Yang's filial piety and respectful attitude? With Master Yang's experience in the Immortal slaying platform, it would be strange if he didn't know who that woman was. Ask around the world, how many people could make Master Yang worship like an ancestor? Even to the golden immortals of the lower realms. When had Master Yang ever had much respect from the bottom of his heart? The few golden immortals from the Tao sect, Yin Yang Demon School, and Samsara Valley who had supported Yang Chan before but chose to watch from the sidelines were also having a change of expression. They were constantly weighing in their hearts about how they should handle this matter. Should they unswervingly stand on Yang Chen's side like Elder Su, or continue to watch from the sidelines? If they chose a side directly, they would inevitably offend someone. No matter which side they chose, they would definitely offend the other side. It seemed that the best thing to do now was to not help either side and continue to watch from the sidelines. Even if Yang Chen knew about it, he couldn't vent his anger on them. Yang Chen himself had watched from the sidelines during the Devil Tribulation, so it was understandable for others to do the same. It would only affect the strength of cooperation. As long as the wives and concubines of Yang Chen's sect's female disciples were there, it would be a simple matter to repair the relationship. It was still the same saying, cultivators were more realistic than mortals. Chapter 2365. 7 Golden Immortal Masters would not be frightened by Elder Su's words. If that was the case, they would not be able to survive in the spiritual world in the future. After plotting for so long, they were scared off by a few words. It was so shameful. It was a matter of face and huge interests. How can anyone shrink back? The greater the risk, the greater the benefit. It was estimated that the Golden Immortal Master of the Ghost Yin sect wanted the risk to be higher, so that he could get the most benefits. Gong Sunling's Mountain River geographical map was a problem. Once it was used, there would be a big problem. After all, almost most of the Xian Immortal Masters of the sect who participated in the battle with the Zhao family were in the Mountain River geographical map. If they wanted to plot the Mountain River geographical map, they must consider that if Gong Sunling put all her eggs in one basket or refused to agree, these people would be used as blackmail. Therefore, from the beginning, the Golden Immortal Masters of the Ghostine sect did not have any idea about Gong Sunling. All their thoughts were on Yang Chen. They had conducted a detailed investigation. Gong Sunling was absolutely obedient to Yang Chen. Not only Gong Sunling, but all the wives and concubines of Yang Chen were the same. As long as Yang Chen was controlled, it meant that they had controlled Gong Sunling, Gao Yu, and all the family members of Yang Chen. Similarly, as long as they controlled Yang Chen, they controlled Chunyang Palace. Yang Chen was also destined to be an indispensable existence in Chunyang Palace. Unfortunately, Chunyang Palace seemed to put all their hopes on Yang Chen, which also led to their biggest flaw in Chunyang Palace. In order to deal with Yang Chen alone, they had even calculated it from the beginning. Before the Joint Command meeting, in the name of Joint Command, Gong Sunling was more important, so she was alone under the protection of several Xian Immortal Masters. As for Yang Chen's wives and concubines, they were also practicing in the battle with the Zhao family in the Mountain River geographical map, and they were also not with Yang Chen. The experts that Elder Su mentioned just now were not around Yang Chen. It was very likely that both the Golden Immortal experts and the experts of the Dragon Clan were in the Mountain River geographical map. Of course, this was also the truth. Yang Chen was indeed the only person by his side. Gong Sunling did not have the slightest objection to this arrangement. She directly followed the people on the side of the Joint Command and gave Yang Chen a sweet smile before leaving. Yang Chen was at the headquarters of the Joint Command and was unknowingly isolated. In order to ensure their safety, the United Command was situated in a relatively large defensive array formation. This formation could easily restrict the entry and exit of any cultivator. This was also the reason why the Golden Immortal of the Ghostine sect dared to plot against Yang Chen even after Elder Su had pointed out so many of Yang Chen's powers. They were not afraid that Yang Chen would escape or meet up with Gong Sunling. Even when those Golden Immortal Masters were discussing, they did not care whether Yang Chen would escape or not. He was just a Xian Immortal Master In the Joint Command, there were so many Golden Immortal Masters he really couldn't make much trouble. Yang Chun did not intend to escape. He had been meditating in the area belonging to Chunyang Palace, resting while waiting. He was waiting for the attitude of the Joint Command. At this time, Yang Chun did not want to do anything that would harm the unity of the spiritual world, but he was not afraid that someone would do such a thing. Everything was waiting for those people to give him an explanation. "I'm sorry, Master Yang." The Commander-in-Chief of the Joint Command, the Island Master of the Green Jade Immortal Island, personally came to Yang Chun and expressed her attitude to him. "I'm sorry, I can't stop their behavior, and I can't convince the Golden Immortal Masters of my sect. I can only guarantee that the Golden Immortal Masters of my sect will not make a move. I can't do anything else. In addition, you won't have to worry about your life. They just want to take the initiative to fight for a little advantage." From a moral point of view, the Island Master still felt sorry for Yang Chun, so she said sorry. But she couldn't influence the mind of her own Golden Immortal Masters. This was not a lie. Even if she was unwilling to be enemies with Yang Chun, she couldn't support Yang Chun unconditionally now. Being able to come to Yang Chun in person and say these apologetic words was the limit that the Island Master could do. At the same time, in order to make up for this apology, the Island Master made a promise to Yang Chun: "No matter what happens, Shi Shan is my pro-disciple, and she will never suffer any grievances in the Green Jade Immortal Island." Along with the Island Master, there were also the sect masters of the Five Elements sect, Chinquin sect, and Blue Cloud sect, and they expressed the same meaning. Everyone had an apologetic look on their faces, and under the calm eyes of Yang Chun, all of them blushed. When they worked with Yang Chun in the past, everyone was very happy, but when there was a Golden Immortal Master who wanted to seize Yang Chun's industry, everyone had to compromise under the pressure from above, which was really contrary to their principles. However, compared with Yang Chun, the overall situation of the entire spiritual world against the Zhao family seemed to be more important, and these people were people who could really do great things, so it was inevitable that they would make the most suitable choice they felt. From the overall situation, they felt that they were right, but from a personal point of view, they felt that they owed Yang Chun, so they would specifically come to apologize to Yang Chun. That was Yang Chun. If it was replaced by other cultivators, it was estimated that they would not even have this meeting and apology words. The sect masters of Yin Yang Demon School and Samsara Valley also came to express the same apology. Only the sect master of Wuji Demon School could lift his head in front of Yang Chun. Master Su unreservedly supported Yang Chun and stood on the side of Yang Chun, so that his sect also made the same choice. However, even so, under the intervention of the Joint Command, Master Su would not fight side by side with Yang Chun. However, as an explanation to Yang Chun and Master Su, among the Golden Immortal experts who wanted to touch Yang Chun, one of them would withdraw, and Master Su would use all his strength to restrain that person. At this moment before the decisive battle, it was not a smart thing to let two Golden Immortal experts fight to the death. In this regard, Yang Chun did not express his opinion. Not letting the Golden Immortal experts kill each other was considered taking into account the overall situation, but what was the point of attacking him? However, he still expressed his gratitude to Master Su for supporting him as always. To be able to do this was really extremely benevolent. It should be known that he and Master Su had only met a few times at most, and were far from a deep friendship. For this alone, Yang Chun might even be grateful. One thing, Master Yang's life can't be in danger. This is the bottom line. Seeing that a few Golden Immortal experts had surrounded Yang Chun not far away, the Island Master finally said his last request, and then slowly left. This place would become the venue of the duel, and they would watch from afar. Chapter 2366. Before we start, there are some ugly words that must be said first. Yang Chun finally opened his mouth and said to the few Golden Immortal Masters who slowly surrounded him, as well as the people who were in charge of the Joint Command. "Since you want to start, then don't blame me for being rude. Don't be polite. We never expect you to be polite." The Golden Immortal Master of the Ghost Yin sect said with a smile, which even caused the 5 Golden Immortals around him to laugh. Because Elder Su had offset one, there were only 6 golden immortals who wanted to start. For the offset spot, the 7 golden immortal masters also had a small debate. None of them wanted to back out. At any rate, this was a rare opportunity. However, due to the pressure from the limitless demon sect, one of them had to back out. In the end, the gold immortal with the weakest cultivation base reluctantly backed out. Not only did he have to quit in the process of subduing Yangchun, but he also had to quit when seizing the geographical map of the mountains and rivers. This was the agreement. That was why he had a displeased look on his face. Even his gaze towards Elder Su was filled with resentment. However, although he was unhappy, this guy was very obedient. He said he would not start a fight, and he stood far away, standing with the golden immortal masters who were watching, waiting for the end of this side. Actually, I don't want to come to this point. At this moment, this kind of internal strife should not happen. In Yang Chen's words, there was indescribable regret and regret. But you didn't take the road to heaven and broke into the door to hell. This is what you asked for. No matter what the consequences are, you can only bear it. We don't need a junior like you to teach us how to behave. The golden immortal master of the ghost sect snorted coldly in another direction. If you don't want to destroy the good situation, as long as you cooperate, no one will make things difficult for you. What we want is not your life, Master Yang. No matter how much these guys wanted to deal with Yangchun, the last word Master Yang could be heard from their sincerity. No one was willing to become enemies with an alchemy master who had a promising future and was most likely to become a level 9 alchemy master. But now that they had come to this point, they could no longer have any more scruples. When it was time to take action, they still had to take action. Of course, there was another important reason. That was Chunyang Palace had not yet matured. In the immortal world, Chunyang Palace didn't even have a name, let alone a foundation. This was the biggest reason why those guys dared to touch Yangchun. No matter how strong an elixir master was, without the support of the higher-ups, he was nothing more than a junior with potential in the eyes of the golden immortals. He was insignificant. This is the most boring battle I've ever had. Yangchun still maintained a sitting posture, but the immortal beheading blade had slowly appeared in his hand. Xiao Tian bit the handle of the immortal beheading blade, and his tail curled around Yangchun's wrist, which was easily held by Yangchun. The moment Xiao Tian and the immortal beheading saber appeared, all the golden immortal experts narrowed their eyes and focused on Xiao Tian at the same time. Xiao Tian's unique body and the characteristics of biting weapons were almost the most blatant way to tell everyone what a proud pet he was. Yazi. The cultivators in the mortal world didn't know him, and 99% of the cultivators in the spiritual world didn't know him. But how could these guys who came down from the immortal world not know him? Even if they didn't know him. But looking at such unique characteristics, they should be able to guess what species Xiao Tian should be. It was an accident that Grandmaster Yang had a Yazi demon pet in his hands. No one expected it. After carefully checking the cultivation level of Xiao Tian, everyone was stunned again. Yazi of the Golden Immortal Realm. This was fun. The Golden Immortal experts of the Ghost Ean sect and Ghost Soul sect who participated in the fight couldn't help but breathe a lot heavier. Although Yazi was not a pure dragon, it was also one of the 9 sons of the dragon. If they really fought, they were afraid that they would not be his opponent one-on-one. Fortunately, they had calculated early and transferred Gong Sunling and those experts away, leaving only Yangchun. Even with Yazi as a helper, 6 against 1 still occupied the absolute upper hand. The eyes of several golden immortal masters collided with each other in the air, and everyone saw the flash in each other's eyes. Even the demon pet was this kind of Yazi that could not be reached, controlling Yangchun. When Yangchun got the great wealth in his hands, he didn't know how excited he would be. I'm actually very considerate of the overall situation. Yangchun ignored the more greed in these people's eyes and just said to himself, since you won't take my life, then in return, I will not take your life either. So, I won't say that sentence. People who knew Yangchun knew what the sentence in Yangchun's mouth was. That was Yangchun's mantra, the mantra that he had to say before killing people. Every injustice has its source. Every debt has its debtor. It was said that the enemies who had heard this had already died. Yang Chun finally stood up slowly. His action made the 6 golden immortal masters around him as if they were facing a great enemy. They all took out their own natal magic weapons, but they still refrained from making a move because they could all see that Yang Chun seemed to have something to say. To be honest, this is your luck. There was a faint smile on Yang Chen's face, and there was a little hidden contempt. I have killed more 10,000 tribulation true immortals than you have heard of. Today I will make an exception and not kill you. You should really feel lucky. It was no secret that Yang Chen used to be an executioner on the Immortal beheading platform, and the Golden Immortal Masters naturally knew this. They were in the Immortal realm, and they knew how many immortals of the old Heavenly Court were sent to the Immortal beheading platform when the Heavenly Court changed drastically. To put it bluntly, the Almighty Immortal was barely qualified to enter the Immortal beheading platform, and the Golden Immortals like them are not even qualified to enter the Immortal beheading platform. Yang Chen's words were really not boasting. If I haven't come out of the Valley of No Return, I will naturally listen to what you Golden Immortal Masters say. At this time, Yang Chun did not forget to add some mystery to his cultivation. But since I have come out of the Valley of No Return, you still have the courage to do so. I admire you very much. As Yang Chun spoke slowly and calmly, the faces of the people around him changed, including those who were hiding at the back and watching the battle from afar. At this time, Yang Chen's body was slowly releasing an extremely powerful pressure, accumulating little by little and strengthening little by little, giving people the feeling of Mount Tai pressing down on them. At this time, Yang Chen was still standing there, but he had a kind of giant momentum, making people involuntarily look up to him. What did Yang Chen get from the Valley of No Return? Looking at the sudden momentum of Yang Chen, the Golden Immortals and sect leaders of the major sects who chose to watch from the side suddenly realized that they seemed to have made a stupid decision. Chapter 2367. Several Golden Immortal experts listened to Yang Chen's understated words, and their lungs were about to explode. The momentum that they had painstakingly built up was diluted to almost nothing by Yang Chen's words. If they could tolerate it, how could they not tolerate it? So what if he said it nicely? In the end, didn't they still have to see the real deal? At this time, they couldn't let Yang Chen continue to talk. If he continued to talk, it was estimated that they would not have the confidence to continue. If Yang Chen made 1 or 2 demon pets like Xiao Tian at this time, it was estimated that these Golden Immortal experts would give up even if they did not want to save their face. Fortunately, the situation they were afraid of did not happen. Not only that, Yang Chen even took the initiative to hold the Immortal beheading saber in a reverse grip, turning the back of the saber to the people. In other words, this was the promise that Yang Chen had just made, that he would not take their lives. This action directly raised the anger of several Golden Immortal experts to the highest point. Then the Golden Immortals of the Ghost Een sect no longer cared whether they were bullying the weak or not. They flew up and rushed up. The scene had long been surrounded by the array. If the 6 Golden Immortal experts fought, it was not something that an ordinary array could resist. Fortunately, there were still 8 Golden Immortal experts on the periphery. They could not fight, so they could only preside over the array outside, so that the damage here would not be too thorough. Only the Golden Immortal experts of the same level could use the array to block the attacks of the Golden Immortal experts. Just when the Golden Immortal experts had already started, the Island Master who was watching the battle outside suddenly found that there were a few more people around him. When he took a closer look, he was shocked. Grandmaster Wang Yong, who was temporarily restrained by the Joint Command, stood at the forefront, watching the battle in the array with interest. And beside Grandmaster Wang Yong was Gong Sunling, who was the most feared by the Golden Immortal experts. At the same time, Gao Yu and the others also stood there, watching the battle in a circle like watching a play. What made the Island Master slightly relieved was that Yang Chen's wives and concubines were all standing there, and had no intention of going down to help. They even had smiles on their faces. They didn't seem to be worried about their husband at all. Could there be a cultivator who knew Yang Chen's combat effectiveness better than his wives and concubines who lived with him? Seeing their relaxed expressions, the island master and the others felt that they had made an unforgivable mistake. The originally good situation against the Zhao family seemed to be shrouded by a layer of shadow because of this. At this time, the sect leader of Ghost Yin's sect even forgot to ask how Gong Sunling and Wang Yong were able to come here under the special care of those Xian immortal experts. Since they were here, it had already explained everything. These few Xian immortal experts seemed to be much stronger than Gong Sunling, but they didn't even make a sound, yet they allowed Gong Sunling to bring Wang Yong here. What did this mean? The island master and the other sect masters of Dao sects, as well as the other sect masters who were watching from the sidelines before, at most felt that they had made a wrong decision and didn't support Yang Chun to the end. But in any case, although they didn't support him, they didn't hit him when he was down. At least they restrained those guys from taking Yang Chen's life. More or less, they still had some feelings for him. But the Ghosting sect and the Ghost sect had really offended Yang Chun. The few sect masters didn't even know how to end this. They could only hope that this battle would be won by their respective golden and mortal grandmasters. Maybe at that time, they could take the initiative a little more. The sect masters, who were fantasizing about taking the initiative to end things, were suddenly awakened by the violent shock in front of them. They found that when they saw Gong Sun Ling and the others coming over, they were a little surprised, and then they were distracted for a while. It seems that there has been a little result there. A golden immortal expert's attacking magic treasure was caught by Yang Chen's empty left hand. Then he directly spun in the air and threw him onto the outer protective formation. That golden immortal expert held on to his natal magic treasure tightly. His body involuntarily tumbled and smashed heavily on the edge of the formation. The protective formation, which was claimed to be able to withstand the destructive power of 10 golden immortal experts in a battle, trembled violently and almost failed because of this. The 8 golden immortal experts in charge of the protective formation exerted all their strength to stabilize the formation in an instant. But even so, those golden immortal experts were so scared that they broke out in cold sweat. If the protective formation was broken, the entire headquarters of the Joint Command Headquarters would probably become a disaster. The golden immortal expert who was thrown out and hit the formation was also shocked at this moment. It wasn't that he didn't want to let go of his natal magic treasure, but he couldn't. When his natal flying sword was caught by Yang Chen's empty left hand, he realized that if he didn't resist with all his strength, his most cherished natal flying sword would turn into a pile of scrap iron the next moment. But because he was focused on protecting the magic treasure, he couldn't care about his own body control. He was thrown out by Yang Chun. How is this possible? This golden immortal expert couldn't care about the condition of his companions at all. Although he fell heavily on the edge of the formation, it didn't hurt him at all. He just felt a little dizzy because of the huge force. The problem was, Yang Chun was just a Xian Immortal Jr., and a few hundred years ago, he was at most an Earth Immortal Jr. How did his cultivation increase so much in such a short period of time? Yang Chen's words just now came to his mind again. He must have obtained something amazing from the immortal beheading platform after coming out of the Valley of No Return. He was afraid that he really kicked an iron plate this time. What kind of body refining technique is this? What scared the golden immortal expert the most was that he didn't feel any spiritual power in Yang Chen's hand before. In other words, Yang Chun grabbed his natal flying sword with the strength of his body and then threw him out. How terrifying was this fact? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but ask loudly. The reason why he asked directly was because he knew that this kind of huge power could only be exerted by a strong body. Without the body refining technique, it was impossible to achieve this by relying on the nourishment of spiritual power. The immortal world's yellow turban strongman body refining technique. Are you familiar with it? While being besieged by the 5 golden immortal experts, Yang Chun didn't forget to answer his question calmly. Just as he answered the question, the 3 golden immortal experts who besieged him flew in 3 directions like a baseball hit by a high-speed bat. Boom, boom, boom. The bodies of the 3 golden immortal experts also hit the edge of the protective formation heavily. In the eyes of countless cultivators of the spiritual world, the golden light at the edge of the protective formation flickered and almost disappeared but then it recovered quickly. It flickered again, almost disappeared again, and recovered again. Only then did the turbulence stop. Chapter 2368. The Golden Immortal experts who were still at the edge of the array understood that their three companions were hit by the back of the immortal beheading saber thrown by Yang Chun, and then they flew out involuntarily. It was the same as what happened to him before, except that he was thrown out empty-handed, while the other three were hit by the back of the immortal beheading saber. The 8 Golden Immortals who were in charge of the protective array outside were sweating profusely. In such a short period of time, they had already endured attacks that were close to the limit of the protective array. If it weren't for the fact that all of them were recuperating and ready to defend at any time, the few attacks just now would have been enough to shatter the protective array. Fortunately, the 3 Golden Immortal experts who were hit by Yang Chun hit the protective array 3 times separately. If they were hit at the same time, the protective array would definitely shatter. Even now, there were all kinds of smoke rising inside the array. Without the use of divine sense, there was no way to know what was going on inside. Even if they used their divine sense for the various sect masters, they could only barely detect a few shadows. They couldn't see what exactly happened at all. The cultivation of the various sect masters was relatively average. All of them were in the celestial immortal realm. It was simply whimsical to want to detect the whereabouts of the Golden Immortal and Xian Immortal experts. Both sides fighting inside were not on guard. If they were on guard, they wouldn't even be able to see a shadow. On the other hand, Yang Chen's wives and concubines were all beaming with joy, as if they had seen something wonderful. Everyone wanted to ask, but they couldn't bring themselves to do so. When they asked the Golden Immortal ancestors who were in charge of the array, they all looked as if they were facing a great enemy. It seemed that they wouldn't have the free time and energy to answer their questions. The question of the Golden Immortal expert was what all the Golden Immortals and even all the cultivators present wanted to know. They didn't expect to get an answer from Yang Chun. Almost every cultivator's cultivation method was a secret. It was impossible to know unless it was someone close to them. How could Yang Chun reveal it to them? But not only did Yang Chun answer, but he also answered very happily, as if he wasn't afraid of them knowing it all. What made people even more speechless was that the content of Yang Chen's answer was actually the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. Hearing Yang Chen's answer, all the cultivators, except for Yang Chen's wives and concubines, were speechless. Yang Chen's body refining technique was so powerful, but it was only the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. It was really unbelievable. What is the yellow turban strongman body refining technique? It was a technique that could be found everywhere in the immortal world. As long as one was a disciple of a super sect, one could find such a trashy technique in the outermost layer of the sutra depository of every sect. Many people would only take a glance at the jade slips that recorded the information before throwing it back in disdain. This kind of cultivation method actually had such a strong power. Back in the immortal plane, these Golden Immortal experts had seen the truly powerful yellow scarf strongmen. But those were the result of thousands of years of cultivation. Their bodies were ridiculously strong, but that was all. Cultivating this body tempering technique meant that there was almost no possibility of breaking through in other aspects. Who could have thought that the most promising alchemy master in the spiritual world would actually cultivate such a trashy body refining technique? But even so, the 4 Golden Immortal experts couldn't withstand the power of a single blow from such a trashy body refining technique, which was simply unacceptable, considering how long Master Yang had been cultivating this cultivation method. Even if Master Yang started cultivating from the moment he came into contact with the immortal beheading platform, it had only been a little more than 3,000 years since the upheaval of the heavenly court. This had already compared the Golden Immortal experts who had been cultivating for many years to the trash. Then, in the dust and smoke that filled the sky, the cultivators below the Xian Immortal cultivation base didn't know what was happening in the array. Those who were able to see what was happening within the formation were all astonished. Their mouths were unknowingly agape, yet they were unable to utter a single word. It was more than appropriate to describe them as dumbfounded and tongue-tied. Fortunately, everyone could still hear the sound inside, but they could only hear the banging sound. They didn't understand what was going on inside. This made those sect masters more and more curious, but no one told them the situation inside. The 8 golden immortal experts who presided over the protective array outside had very complicated feelings, and each of them had different feelings. In addition to being happy, Elder Su seemed to only be mocking his other companions who couldn't see the situation clearly. That was to say, he had been supporting Yang Chun and Chunyang Palace from the beginning to the end. Now it seemed that his guess was not wrong at all. Wuji Demon School's gamble was right, and there would definitely be a lot of benefits. Just thinking about it made people wake up from their dreams with a smile. The 6 golden immortals of Yin-Yang Demon School and the Valley of No Return, who had originally supported Yang Chun, had indescribable expressions on their faces. There was regret, confusion, disbelief, and a kind of extreme joy. Although they didn't support Yang Chun to the end, at least they left some leeway. They didn't offend Yang Chun completely, and there was still a chance to slowly repair the relationship in the future. As for the guy who was originally going to fight because of Elder Su, at this moment his unwillingness had turned into surprise and joy. Fortunately, he didn't fight, otherwise he would have ended up like those guys inside. Thinking of this, even his resentment towards Elder Su had faintly turned into a kind of gratitude. Yang Chun didn't use the immortal beheading saber anymore. He found that he had to hold back when he used the immortal beheading saber, which was too troublesome. Not to mention anything else, just the weight of the immortal beheading saber was not something that ordinary golden immortal experts could bear. It should be known that Yang Chun had now cultivated the secret of Kwa Yi to the 2nd level. Carrying the weight of the immortal beheading saber and hitting the opponent, even if they didn't die, they would lose a layer of skin. If it weren't for Yang Chun holding back, those golden immortal experts would have been unrecognizable. But now it wasn't much better. Although Yang Chun put away the immortal beheading saber and changed to using his fists, it didn't mean that the golden immortal experts would end up much better. After the first few heavy attacks, the 6 golden immortal experts had completely lost the ability to resist and fell from the edge of the protective array. Which one of them didn't feel dizzy? At this time, after being greeted by Yang Chun's fists, it seemed that only the one with the strongest cultivation could still stay awake. The banging sounds heard from outside were the sounds of Yang Chun waving his fists and teaching these greedy golden immortals a lesson. Out of the 6 golden immortals, 5 were already lying on the ground. Each of them had a bloody nose and swollen face and were unconscious. The remaining guy from the Ghosteen sect only had a trace of consciousness left, but he couldn't wait to pass out immediately so that he wouldn't have to face such a great shame. 6 golden immortal masters were taught a solid lesson by Yang Chun, a Xian Immortal Jr. He believed that if they could choose, they would definitely wish that they had never had those thoughts. Chapter 2369. The smoke and dust gradually dissipated. Because the movements behind were very small, the divine senses could be fully explored, so the people watching outside had basically known the result in advance. But everyone still couldn't believe what they had seen with their divine senses. 6 golden immortals who had passed the tribulation were taught a solid lesson by a Xian Immortal Jr. with his fists and feet. This matter was simply like a heavenly book. The problem was, no matter how much they didn't believe it, when everything was presented in front of them, they still had to stare with their eyes radiating with disbelief, silently admitting that there was nothing wrong with their eyes and divine senses. 5 of the 6 golden immortals, the golden immortals who had passed the tribulation in the lower realm of the immortal realm, were lying on the ground in an irregular shape, unconscious. The only one who could still remain conscious had a head and face full of bruises. His nostrils were flowing with the blood of a golden immortal that countless alchemists coveted. His eyes were unfocused, and his clothes were grabbed by Yang Chun. His body hung limply, unable to resist. Judging from the unnatural bending of the hands and feet of the awake golden immortal of the Ghosteen sect, his hands and feet had been broken by Yang Chun. The blood flowing from the corner of his mouth and the large bloodstain on his chest showed that his injury was probably not as simple as the broken limbs. To be able to completely immobilize a golden immortal who had passed the tribulation This injury might not be worse than Lin Zhongshuan's injury. No one was willing to believe this result, except for the people of Chunyang Palace and Yang Chen's wives and concubines. But everyone had to believe it because the facts were in front of them. Yang Chen, a little cultivator who was just an earth immortal 1,000 years ago, became a powerful cultivator who could fight against 6 golden immortals alone after entering the Valley of No Return and obtaining the mysterious inheritance in the immortal beheading platform. Thinking back carefully about Yang Chen's situation, it seemed that Yang Chen did not have such strength before the Xintian sect was destroyed. At that time, although Yang Chen's cultivation had greatly improved, he was still at the early stage of Xian Immortal. Otherwise, he would have been able to turn the tide in the Xintian sect and kill more golden immortals of the Zhao family. Perhaps if the mysterious Heaven sect had been lucky, they would not have been annihilated. In less than 30 years, Yang Chen's cultivation had jumped 3 levels, and his combat power had also become so strong that he could fight 6 people with his bare hands. It was really amazing what had happened in the past few years. Or rather, what kind of inheritance did Yang Chen obtain in the immortal beheading platform? The sect masters of the various sects who were watching the battle from the outside had mixed feelings in their hearts. Because of their miscalculation of Yang Chen, they made the wrong choice. Now, they had no choice but to face the consequences of this wrong choice and see how they could make up for it. The golden immortal of Ghost, Yin's sect barely opened his swollen eyelids. Under the control of Yang Chen's big hands, he couldn't even use his divine sense to self-destruct. He could only watch helplessly as he was kneaded by Yang Chen like a dough. At this moment, he saw the shocked eyes of the cultivators who were watching the battle from a distance. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Yang Chen had no intention of saving face for this golden, immortal senior. He directly raised his hand and slapped this guy more than a dozen times in the face. The slaps were so loud that the cultivators outside could hear them clearly. It was as if these slaps were slapped on their faces. You can't even beat me, but you still want to help my wife control the geographical map of the mountain river? Yang Chen's sarcastic words were unceremoniously heard by the sect master of the sect and the golden immortal of Ghostin's sect. Why don't you see if you have the strength to do so? How dare you talk so shamelessly with this level of strength? Bah! The golden immortal of Ghost, Yin's sect finally fainted in happiness. Under Yang Chen's slaps and his previous injuries, as well as Yang Chen's sarcastic words just now, he lost consciousness. His head drooped softly, and there was no more movement. By fainting, he had a chance to escape. At least, Yang Chen would not do anything to him. However, those golden immortal experts and the sect masters of the sect who were awake still had to face this embarrassing situation. Some people keenly heard something from Yang Chen's words. Yang Chen's words seemed to express some content. It seemed that Yang Chen's realm was not helpful to the geographical map of the mountain river. So how powerful could the geographical map of the mountain river be? Originally, they thought that being able to refine the demon realm was already unimaginably powerful. But now everyone realized that it seemed that this was far from the true power of the geographical map of the mountain river. There had never been a spatial magic treasure that could refine a world before, so everyone had no specific concept of such a powerful spatial magic treasure. They knew it was powerful, but no one could tell how powerful it was. Now everyone seemed to have a vague idea. Yang Chen could easily defeat 6 golden immortals alone, but he could not help the geographical map of the mountain river. I'm afraid that this magic treasure of Gong Sunling was already heaven-defying. From the geographical map of the mountain river, the power of the dragon clan of the Zhao family was inferred. Now everyone could understand why Zhou Sheng, a great principal golden immortal, had to explode in the end. It was said that the master of the dragon clan of the Zhao family was only at the peak of the golden immortal. It was not surprising that he seriously injured Zhou Sheng now. The 6 golden immortal experts were all lying not far from Yang Chen, but everyone just looked from a distance, and no one said anything. Everyone's mind was in turmoil, and no one knew how to end this time. Since the 6 seniors are so enthusiastic to help control the geographical map of the mountain river, then I will fulfill your wish. At this time, Yang Chun did not care what the sect masters were thinking. He directly made a decision and waved to Gong Sunling outside, motioning her to come over. The protective array set up by the 8 golden immortal experts outside had not been removed yet. The several golden immortal experts were completely stunned and forgot about this matter. Seeing Yang Chun waving, they did not understand what he meant for a while. Gong Sunling had already walked to the side of the protective array. Originally, Gong Sunling and the others were watching from outside the protective array. It was just a few steps away. It was so fast that the 8 golden immortal experts had no time to react. Then they were stunned to see another scene that made them want to dig their eyes out to see if there was a problem. Gong Sunling didn't even look at the strong protective array, so she went in with a big stab. It was a protective array set up by 8 golden immortal experts. It was extremely safe inside and outside. Ordinary Xian immortal experts would be bounced back if they hit it. If the golden immortals wanted to, they could even be seriously injured. Chapter 2370. However, Gong Sunling didn't seem to be affected by the rebound at all. In fact, she wasn't even stopped by the array at all. Everyone only saw Gong Sunling walk in casually, as if the array had never appeared. A terrifying scene happened. The array really didn't seem to exist. Gong Sunling walked in easily, as if she was passing through a thin water film. She didn't encounter any obstruction and walked in easily. What was even more shocking was that the solid protective array didn't collapse because of Gong Sunling's passing. It was still intact. Even after Gong Sunling walked through, the human-shaped hole that she made when she passed through the array quickly restored to its original appearance. This scene was not only seen by the sect masters of the major sect, but also by the 8 golden immortal experts. Immersed in the horror, they even forgot everything else. They were all in a hurry to check whether the array had really failed because of the absent-mindedness just now. After checking, the 8 experts raised their heads, looked at each other, and looked at each other. The array was intact, and there was no sign of it being damaged. Gong Sunling was just a cultivator at the peak of Xian Immortal. How could she ignore the array set up by the 8 golden immortal ancestors? Needless to say, this must be the effect of the Mountain River geographical map. How powerful was this magic treasure that caused such a big wave? Yang Chen's family's cultivation had greatly improved after Yang Chun entered the Valley of No Return. Several sect masters of the Dao sect had asked the wives and concubines of Yang Chun, who were now their personal disciples, and the answer was basically the same. That was, Yang Chun had obtained the inheritance of the immortal beheading platform in the Valley of No Return. At the same time, he gave each of them a magical pill, which allowed their cultivation to improve rapidly. Anymore, and there was basically nothing left. No one knew what kind of elixir Yang Chun had given them. They only knew that it could greatly increase their cultivation. Between the sect and their husband, the girls stood firmly on Yang Chen's side. They would not betray the sect, but they would not betray their husband either. However, although he didn't know what kind of pill it was, one thing was for sure, and that was that the girls' combat power had greatly increased. When they returned to the sect, they were already able to easily fight to a draw with the Xian immortal old ancestor in the sect. After following Yang Chun for a few decades, Yang Chun was able to improve so much, so the girls must have improved greatly as well. Good heavens! The few sect masters of the Dao sect were cursing themselves for being fools in their hearts. Even their personal disciples had such a huge improvement. Would Yang Chun himself remain stagnant? How could they make such a stupid mistake? It wasn't easy for them to build a cooperative relationship with Yang Chun, but it was destroyed by their short-sightedness. There were also a few golden immortals who were watching from the sidelines. They clearly knew that the Ghost Een sect and the others did something wrong, but because of a few ridiculous reasons, they became bystanders. Now, they had to swallow the bitter wine that they brewed themselves. Gong Sunling had already walked to Yang Chen's side. Yang Chun grabbed the necks of the 6 golden immortal masters. After stuffing a pill into each golden immortal's mouth in a very barbaric manner, he directly threw them into the Mountain River geographical map, regardless of whether the other party woke up or not. Didn't they want to help? As long as they entered the Mountain River geographical map, The Mountain River geographical map would have 6 more golden immortals, and its power would naturally increase, which was equivalent to them helping. Yang Chun, no. Grandmaster Yang, my sect's ancestor has offended you. Please show mercy. As soon as he saw that Yang Chun had thrown the people into the Mountain River geographical map, the sect master of the Ghost Soul sect suddenly became anxious and hurriedly shouted. He didn't have the ability to ignore the protective array set up by the golden immortal ancestors like Gong Sun Ling, so he could only shout loudly from outside. Don't worry, they won't die. Yang Chen's tone was very relaxed. He turned to the Ghost Soul sect master and said with a smile, didn't the seniors always say that they would help Ling refine the demon realm? Now I'll give them this opportunity. Let them personally come to the Mountain River geographical map to help refine it. As he said that, his hands did not stop, and the 6 masters were thrown into the Mountain River geographical map by him in a few moments. The sect masters of the 6 golden immortal masters could only watch helplessly. By the time the 8 golden immortals removed the protective array, the 6 golden immortal masters had already disappeared without a trace. The only thing that could make the 6 sect masters accept was that the 6 golden immortal ancestors did not die, but were trapped in a Mountain River geographical map. It was conceivable that they would suffer a lot, but no one said anything about this. Who asked them to plot other people's life source magic treasure? Now, they paid the price and were punished. It was reasonable. This world was so realistic, you have a reason to be strong, and Yang Chun was now the most reasonable one. Everyone believed that the 6 golden immortal masters would not die, because if Yang Chun wanted to kill them, he didn't have to wait for them to enter the Mountain River geographical map. Yang Chun could easily kill them all just now. Since Yang Chun said that he wouldn't kill them before he started, then they definitely wouldn't die. What everyone was worried about now was how Master Yang would vent his anger. If they knew that Master Yang had become so extraordinary now, who would provoke Master Yang for no reason? If they wanted to blame someone, they could only blame the few golden immortal ancestors. They took a fancy to someone's things, but they had to have the idea of the person's wife's life source magic treasure. Now, they went for wool and came home shorn. They suffered a double loss. Even they were taught a lesson by Master Yang and imprisoned. There was no need to talk about whether it was shameful or not. The key was, what should they do next? Yang Chun and Gong Sun Ling had shown such a heaven-defying combat power, which had fully demonstrated that they must be the backbone of the fight against the Zhao family. Yang Chun and Gong Sun Ling were like this. Presumably, Yang Chun's other wives and concubines would not be weak, and they would definitely bring everyone a surprise. This was a good thing. The more experts there were in the spiritual world, the greater the chance of winning. But for several sects, this was a bad thing. Their golden immortal ancestors had offended Master Yang badly. How could they repair the relationship between the two sides? The only sect master who smiled the happiest was the sect master of Wuji Demon School, because his own golden immortal ancestors supported Yang Chun. The result was that Wuji Demon School became the biggest winner among the various sects. Originally, they had a good relationship with Master Yang, and now it was naturally to a higher level. Since the winner and the loser have been decided, then this matter will end here. I don't know what you think. The one who spoke was the commander-in-chief of the Joint Command, the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island. Now, she had to come forward to deal with the aftermath. After expressing her intention, she did not forget to consult Yang Chen's opinion. Master Yang, what other requests do you have? Chapter 2371. He told those sect masters and golden immortals that the matter was over, but he turned around and asked Yang Chun if he had any other requests. It was obvious that he was biased towards Yang Chun, but no cultivator jumped out to say that it was unfair for the island master to behave like this. It was still the same sentence. This world was so realistic. When you have a big enough fist, you would have a big enough tongue and a big enough face. The seniors couldn't kill me due to the pressure from the sect masters, so this junior took advantage of it. Yang Chen's words were not so domineering, and he still treated these sect masters with the respect he had in the past. However, at this time, when Yang Chun said anything, the sect masters were no longer treating Yang Chun with the same mentality as before. Listening to Yang Chen's words, everyone's heart also slightly relaxed. Sure enough, if Yang Chen could really kill 6 golden immortal experts with his bare hands, it would be too terrifying. Yang Chen's explanation made everyone feel a lot more at ease. It was reasonable. The golden immortal experts couldn't kill him, but Yang Chen had an advantage that no one could match. Just now, everyone heard that Yang Chen cultivated the body tempering technique of the immortal world's yellow turban strongman body tempering technique, and he was successful in cultivating it. His powerful physical body would definitely have an absolute advantage in a situation where it was not a life and death battle. But even so, it couldn't be taken lightly. In particular, Gong Sun Ling, although her cultivation base was only at the peak Xian Immortal, the kind of performance of not taking the formation seriously really scared everyone. If this was the performance of Gong Sun Ling after refining a part of the demon realm, then what kind of terrifying situation would it be if the Dragon Clan expert of the Zhao family refined more? This was the focus of everyone's worry, but unfortunately, there seemed to be no better way than letting Gong Sun Ling speed up the refining of the demon realm. In the end, Yang Chen did not make any embarrassing suggestions. He only requested that Grandmaster Wang Yong not be casually sealed during the Joint Command Conference in the future. This condition was met unconditionally. With disciples like Yang Chen and Gong Sun Ling, no one dared to be rude to Grandmaster Wang Yong in the future. Although Yang Chen didn't mention it, it didn't mean that the sect wouldn't make some corresponding compensation. At least a few golden immortal experts from the Dao sect came to express their apologies after Yang Chen returned to the resting place prepared by the Joint Command Center. Since these golden immortal experts had personally come to apologize, Yang Chen naturally had to give them face. Moreover, these people were the seniors of his wives and concubines. No matter what, Yang Chen had to uphold the face of his wives and concubines. Perhaps it was also because of this that the few golden immortals of the Dao sect felt that even if they offended Yang Chen a little, there would not be too serious consequences. Moreover, they only chose to watch from the sidelines without interfering, which was much better than those guys who directly went down. Yin Yang Demon School also handled the matter in the same way. The only difference was that the golden immortals and the sect master came at the same time. Lady Fenghua's status as the Great Elder was promoted again, becoming one of the core elders. Even the 30 concubines became the Great Elders of Yin Yang Demon School. Speaking of which, Yin Yang Demon School was the one who gained the most. There were a total of 31 peak Xian Immortals. This was just the cultivation realm on the surface, not to mention the special combat power that Yang Chen used to enhance with the secret method of the Immortal beheading platform. The few sect members couldn't wait to express their goodwill and wanted to repair the relationship. Everyone also understood that it was impossible to completely eliminate the consequences of the previous wrong choice by relying on such a little initiative. At this time, they just tried their best to fight for it so that Yang Chen would not resent them. After all, they were all super sect members. Even if they wanted to make friends, they would not act so impatiently. After expressing their goodwill, everyone left one after another. Then, Yang Chen waited for Grandmaster Su of Wuji Demon School, who had been smiling before and after the matter. It was not the first time that Yang Chen and Grandmaster Su met. They had met at the Samsara Valley auction, and the last time they met was before the Black Heaven sect was destroyed. To be honest, Yang Chen was also quite surprised that Grandmaster Su spared no effort to support him. It's not strange. Ancestor Su directly explained Yang Chen's doubts. Anyone who sees a woman with a veil made by Ancestor Lu's hand beside you, their attitude will be exactly the same as mine. So that was it. Yang Chen finally understood why Grandmaster Su thought so highly of him. It turned out that he had recognized the origin of Madame Bai's veil. Fortunately, from Grandmaster Su's words, Yang Chen understood that he did not fully know Madame Bai's identity. However, the veil alone was probably enough to affect his position. Also in line to visit with the Ghostine sect, Ghost sect, and several other sect masters whose golden immortals were imprisoned by Yang Chen, such as the Ghostine sect. At this time, they also knew that Yang Chen would not directly fall out with them, So they greeted him with smiles and apologized profusely. They did not forget to thank Yang Chun for showing mercy, and at the same time, they begged Yang Chun to treat the imprisoned grandmasters well. Yang Chun didn't want to kill the Golden Immortals at this time, and let the Zhao family laugh to the end. It was estimated that several sect masters had also guessed this, so they were somewhat fearless at this point. However, they were still very polite to Yang Chun. In addition to this, Yang Chun still had many things that he needed them to beg him for. In short, this matter temporarily came to an end in this collective tacit and slightly strange atmosphere. The situation of the Joint Command seemed to be harmonious, but it was inevitable that there was a bit of unnaturalness. After this incident, no one dared to have any thoughts about Yang Chen's family. What a joke! 6 Golden Immortal experts were killed by Yang Chen with his bare hands. If others wanted to have evil thoughts, how many Golden Immortals could their strength compare to? That was just Yang Chen alone. If Yang Chen's wives and concubines were counted, they would really die without a burial place. Countless cultivators began to approach Yang Chen intentionally or unintentionally. Even if they couldn't get close to Yang Chen, they had to find ways to get close to Yang Chen's wives and concubines. At the very least, they had to make friends with some disciples of Chunyang Palace, just to leave a good impression in front of Yang Chen, Master Yang. Not to mention anything else, just the medicinal pills refined by Master Yang were enough to make people salivate. According to the news from Grandmaster Su, it seemed that Master Yang had begun to secretly experiment and refine the 8 Revolution pill. If the 8 Revolution pill could be successfully refined, Master Yang would be the strongest alchemy genius in the spiritual realm, the first to become an 8th grade alchemy master. Countless cultivators were very disdainful of this, thinking that Yang Chen was biting off more than he could chew. But more cultivators were full of expectations. One should know that when Yang Chen was still an Earth Immortal, he had already become a 7th grade alchemy master. Now that he was already in the late profound immortal realm, becoming an 8th grade alchemy master might not be so far away.